Hello and welcome to Ben 10 What If, your home for amazing stories. Today's story is What If Ben 10 had the Infinity Gauntlet. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe if you haven't already. We post new stories regularly. Let's get started. Chapter 1, Collision Course, Ben. On your left. I barely ducked in time as something that looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a blowtorch sailed over my head. The heat singed my hair as I rolled behind a concrete barrier, slapping at the Omnitrix with practiced precision. Going hero! I shouted, the familiar green light washing over me. My muscles expanded, skin hardening into crimson plates as flames erupted across my body. Heat blast. Kevin Levin, covered in concrete armor, grunted as he absorbed another hit from one of the weird rhino things. Anytime now, Tennyson. I launched a stream of fire at the nearest creature, which reared back with a screech. What even are these things? They're definitely not in the plumber database. Gwen's hands glowed with mana as she threw up a shield, protecting a group of civilians cowering behind an overturned bus. Her red hair was plastered to her forehead with sweat, but her eyes remained focused, determined. They appeared right after that energy spike Grandpa Max detected. She called over. Some kind of interdimensional breach, remember? Right. The breach. That's why we were out here in the Nevada desert in the first place. Grandpa Max had called us 3 hours ago about strange energy readings, unlike anything the plumbers had seen before. And now we were fighting flame-breathing rhinos from another dimension. Just another Tuesday for Ben Tennyson. I blasted another creature, driving it back toward the shimmering tear, in reality floating about 20 feet off the ground. The rift pulsed with colors I couldn't even name, occasionally spitting out arcs of energy that scorched the sand where they landed. We need to close that portal. I shouted, launching myself into the air on a column of flame. From up here, I could see at least a dozen more rhino things charging across the desert toward us. And fast. My plumber badge buzzed. I awkwardly fumbled for it while maintaining my fiery hover. Ben. Grandpa Max's voice crackled through. We've got reports of similar breaches opening worldwide. Something big is happening. Whatever you do, don't. The transmission cut off in a burst of static as the rift pulsed, expanded, and suddenly tripled in size. The shock wave knocked me backward, and I crashed into the sand, my fire momentarily extinguished. Ben. Gwen's voice sounded distant through the ringing in my ears. I pushed myself up just in time to see a familiar figure emerge from behind a nearby rock formation. Tall, muscular, with tentacles writhing where a mouth should be. Vilgax, I growled, flames roaring back to life around me. Tennyson. His voice grated like gravel in a blender. I should have known you'd be here. Always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. I launched a fireball at him, which he swatted aside like it was nothing. What are you doing here, squid face? This breach isn't your handiwork, is it? Vilgax laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl even through Heatblast's fiery exterior. No, child. But I recognize an opportunity when I see one. That rift contains energy beyond your comprehension. Energy I intend to claim. He brandished a device I'd never seen before, something that looked like a cross between a tuning fork and a laser gun. It hummed with power, the same strange colors as the rift flickering along its length. Kevin. I shouted. Stop him. Kevin charged, his concrete fist swinging, but Vilgax backhanded him into a boulder without even looking. Gwen tried next, hurling mana discs that Vilgax dodged with surprising agility for someone his size. I needed something stronger than Heat Blast. I slapped the Omnitrix symbol on my chest, the green flash washing over me as my body became crystalline and diamond hard. Diamond Head. I fired a barrage of crystal shards at Vilgax, who actually had to duck this time. Whatever you're planning, it stops now. You're too late, Tennyson, Vilgax snarled, pointing his device at the rift. A beam of energy shot from it, connecting with the dimensional tear. The rift expanded further, its edges becoming jagged and unstable. The power beyond that breach will be mine. More creatures poured through, not just the rhino things now, but twisted, impossible shapes that hurt my eyes to look at directly. Gwen was barely keeping them contained with her barriers, and Kevin was smashing through the ones that got past her, but they were coming too fast. I charged Vilgax, forming my arm into a razor-sharp blade. I'm taking that device, and then I'm taking you in. We clashed in a flurry of blows, my crystal against his alien strength. Even after all these years, fighting Vilgax never got easier. He'd always been my most dangerous enemy, always one step ahead, always just a little stronger than whatever alien I threw at him. The device in his hand pulsed brighter as we fought, the beam connecting to the rift growing wider. The ground beneath us began to shake. Ben! Gwen shouted over the chaos. The rift is becoming unstable. We need to shut it down now. I caught a glimpse of her face, she was scared. Not worried, not concerned, but genuinely frightened. Gwen didn't scare easily, which meant we were in serious trouble. Vilgax used my momentary distraction to land a crushing blow to my chest, sending crystal fragments flying as I staggered back. Your concern should be for yourself, not the rift. I reformed my damaged chest, the Petrosapien ability to regenerate coming in handy. What's on the other side, Vilgax? What power is worth risking 2 dimensions? His eyes narrowed. The ultimate power, boy. Something that makes your precious Omnitrix look like a child's toy. The rift suddenly pulsed again, and a shockwave of energy washed over us. I braced myself, but Vilgax was caught off guard, the device flying from his grip. It spun through the air, still firing its beam into the rift. No. Vilgax lunged for it. I saw my chance and fired a crystal shard that hit the device mid-air, altering its trajectory. Instead of returning to Vilgax's hand, it flew directly into the rift and disappeared. For a moment, everything went silent. The rift stopped expanding. The creatures froze in place. Then the rift collapsed in on itself, creating a vacuum that began pulling everything toward it with incredible force. Gwen. Kevin. Hang on to something. I shouted, driving crystal spikes from my feet into the ground to anchor myself. Gwen created mana tethers, securing herself and Kevin to large boulders. The rhino creatures weren't so lucky, they slid across the sand, screeching as they were sucked back into the rift. Vilgax dug his claws into the earth, fighting the pull. You fool! Do you know what you've done? The vacuum intensified. My crystal anchors began to crack under the strain. The rift was now a swirling vortex of light and color, growing smaller but pulling stronger. Ben! Gwen's voice was barely audible over the roar of the collapsing portal. Your anchors are breaking. She was right. With a final crack, the crystal spikes shattered, and I was airborne, tumbling helplessly toward the rift. Gwen. I reached out, but she was too far away. I saw her horrified face, saw Kevin trying to reach me but held back by Gwen's mana tether. The last thing I heard before the rift swallowed me was Vilgax's roar of rage and my cousin screaming my name. Then, nothing but light and color and the sensation of being torn apart molecule by molecule. I crashed onto hard ground, the impact knocking the wind from my lungs and reverting me back to human form. For a moment, I just lay there, gasping for breath, my head spinning. When I finally managed to sit up, I found myself in a landscape unlike anything I'd seen before. The sky above me was wrong, not blue, but a deep purple streaked with bands of gold. 2 suns hung low on the horizon, one red, one pale blue. The ground beneath me wasn't earth or sand, but some kind of crystalline substance that shimmered with internal light. Definitely not Nevada anymore, I muttered, checking the Omnitrix. It glowed green, fully functional, at least. That was something. I stood, wincing at various aches and pains. Nothing seemed broken, which was lucky considering how I'd arrived. Looking around, I saw what appeared to be the aftermath of a massive battle. Craters scarred the landscape. Strange, twisted metal structures lay broken and smoking. In the distance, something that might have been a city was partially collapsed, massive chunks of buildings floating impossibly in the air. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded flat, like the air was too thin to carry sound properly. "Anybody here?" No response. I started walking toward the ruined city, figuring it was my best bet for finding answers, or a way home. The crystalline ground crunched underfoot, occasionally pulsing with light when I stepped on certain spots. As I walked, I tried my plumber badge, but got nothing but static. Either it was damaged in the transition through the rift, or there were no plumber communications in this dimension. Neither option was encouraging. I'd been walking for about 10 minutes when I heard it, a faint groan coming from behind a pile of the strange metal debris. I approached cautiously, ready to activate the Omnitrix at the first sign of danger. "Hello? Someone there? I'm not looking for trouble." Another groan, weaker this time. I rounded the debris pile and stopped short. A humanoid figure lay sprawled on the ground, clearly injured. Its skin was a pale blue, marked with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as I watched. It wore armor of a design I'd never seen, not quite technological, not quite magical, but something in between. Its eyes opened as I approached, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle on its face, all glowing with the same golden light. "You." It rasped, its voice otherworldly and strained. "You are not, from here." I knelt beside it, checking for wounds I could treat. There was some kind of energy burn across its chest, pulsing with dark power. "No, I'm not. My name's Ben. Ben Tennyson. I came through a dimensional rift by accident." The being coughed, a sound like wind chimes breaking. "Ben Tennyson. The universe provides. What happened here?" I asked, gesturing to the devastation around us. "Thanos," the being whispered, the name carrying a weight that made the air seem even thinner. "He came, for the stones." "Stones? What stones?" Instead of answering, the being raised a trembling hand. I noticed for the first time that it wore some kind of gauntlet, golden, massive, with slots for what looked like 6 gems. Only 2 slots were filled, one with a red stone, one with a blue stone. The others were empty. "The balance must be maintained," the being said, its voice growing weaker. "Across all dimensions. Too much power in one place." I had no idea what it was talking about, but it was clearly dying. "How can I help you? Is there someone I can call? Somewhere I can take you?" The being's 3 eyes fixed on me with sudden clarity. "The Omnitrix bearer. Of course. It had to be you." I startled. "You know about the Omnitrix?" "I know, of many things. Many worlds." Its hand suddenly shot out, grasping my wrist with surprising strength. "The gauntlet must be protected. The stones, scattered. Balance, preserved." Before I could react, the being pulled the gauntlet from its arm and thrust it toward me. As soon as it touched my skin, the red and blue stones flared with blinding light. The Omnitrix responded, green energy surging up my arm to meet the gauntlet's power. Pain unlike anything I'd ever experienced tore through me. I screamed, trying to pull away, but the being held me fast, its 3 eyes glowing brighter. "Bearer of the Omnitrix. Protector of Earth. Guardian now of reality and space." Its voice grew stronger even as its body began to fade, becoming transparent. "Use them wisely. Find the others, before he does." "Wait." I gasped through the pain. "Who's Thanos? What are these stones? How do I get home?" The being's form was almost completely gone now, little more than a shimmer in the air. "The gauntlet will show you. Trust in your power, Ben Tennyson. But beware, power changes." All it touches. With those final words, the alien vanished completely. The pain subsided abruptly, leaving me on my knees, gasping, with a golden gauntlet now fused to my left hand, the same hand that wore the Omnitrix. The gauntlet had shrunk to fit me, the gold metal flowing like liquid to conform to my arm. The two stones, one red, one blue, pulsed with power, sending waves of energy up my arm that somehow merged with the Omnitrix's familiar green glow. What the heck just happened? I muttered, staring at the gauntlet. The Omnitrix had shifted position, now embedded in the back of the gauntlet where a third stone might have gone. I tried to remove the gauntlet, but it wouldn't budge. It felt like part of me now, as integral as the Omnitrix had become over the years. A distant sound caught my attention, something like thunder, but continuous and growing louder. I looked up to see the purple sky darkening, swirling clouds forming directly overhead. Something was coming. Something big. Time to go, I said to myself, activating the Omnitrix. The familiar selection will appeared, but the alien silhouettes were different, altered somehow. I didn't have time to figure out what had changed. I selected XLR-8, my go-to for quick escapes. The transformation felt different, hotter, more intense. When the green light faded, I looked down at myself and gasped. I was XLR-8, but not. My body was the familiar blue and black, built for speed, but now red energy coursed through the black patterns on my skin. I felt faster, lighter, like I could break the sound barrier by jogging. What did that gauntlet do to me? I wondered aloud, my voice carrying the characteristic rasp of XLR-8 but with an echoing quality it never had before. The thunder sound grew louder. The swirling clouds parted, and massive ships began descending, angular, predatory crafts that screamed hostile in any language or dimension. I didn't wait to introduce myself. Whatever those ships were, whatever had happened to this world, I needed to find a way home first. I took off, and nearly screamed in shock as reality itself seemed to bend around me. I wasn't just running fast, I was warping space. Each step covered miles, not yards. The landscape blurred, then pixelated, then reformed around me with each stride. Within seconds, I was across the crystalline plain and entering the ruined city I'd spotted earlier. I skidded to a stop, nearly colliding with a broken wall as I struggled to control my enhanced speed. Okay, that was new. The city was empty, not abandoned, but empty in a way that suggested everyone who lived here had been erased rather than fled. No bodies, no signs of evacuation, just absence. Buildings stood with doors open, strange vehicles sat in the streets, what looked like food remained on tables visible through windows. It was deeply unsettling. I made my way through the empty streets, searching for anything that might help me get home. The gauntlet on my hand pulsed occasionally, the red and blue stones flaring in sequence, like they were communicating with each other. What are you guys, anyway? I asked the stones, feeling slightly ridiculous talking to jewelry. And what am I supposed to do with you? To my surprise, the red stone flashed brightly, and suddenly the air before me shimmered. An image formed, a swirling nebula of stars and gas, at the center of which floated 6 colored points of light. They spread outward, each becoming a stone like the ones in my gauntlet. The infinity stones, a voice whispered, seeming to come from inside my own head. Power. Space. Reality. Soul. Time. Mind. The blue stone, space, presumably, pulsed next, and the image changed to show countless dimensions laid out like sheets of paper, stacked into infinity. One sheet glowed brighter than the others. Earth, my Earth. Home, I whispered. Can you take me there? Both stones flashed in unison. The gauntlet suddenly felt warm, almost eager. I raised my hand instinctively, and a crackling portal opened before me, not like the chaotic rift that had brought me here, but a controlled, stable doorway ringed with blue energy. Through it, I could see the Nevada desert, and Gwen and Kevin still fighting off the last of the interdimensional creatures. That was almost too easy, I muttered, suddenly suspicious. The alien had entrusted me with the gauntlet for a reason, warning me to protect it and find the other stones before someone named Thanos did. It didn't seem right to just go home and pretend none of this happened. But I needed to make sure Gwen and Kevin were okay. And Grandpa Max would know what to do next. The plumbers had protocols for interdimensional threats. Decision made, I stepped toward the portal, and something massive slammed into me from behind, sending me tumbling through with enough force that I crashed into the Nevada sand on the other side. The portal snapped shut behind me, cutting off whatever had attacked me. The impact reverted me back to human form, the gauntlet still fused to my left hand, the Omnitrix now embedded within it. Ben. Gwen was at my side in an instant, helping me up. What happened? Where did you go? You've been gone for hours. Hours? I coughed, spitting sand. It felt like 30 minutes, tops. Kevin jogged up, his concrete armor chipped and cracked from fighting. Dude, you vanished 6 hours ago. We've been holding off those weird rhino things ever since. They just disappeared a few minutes ago. I looked around. The desert was a mess, scorch marks everywhere, craters from impacts, the overturned bus still providing shelter for civilians who were now being evacuated by plumber agents who must have arrived while I was gone. Where's Vilgax? I asked, suddenly remembering my nemesis had been caught in the same rift collapse. Gwen's expression darkened. Gone. He disappeared right after you did. We thought he might have followed you. I shook my head. Didn't see him. But I saw something else. I held up my left arm, showing them the gauntlet with its embedded Omnitrix and 2 glowing stones. Kevin whistled low. What the hell is that? Language, Gwen said automatically, but her eyes were fixed on the gauntlet. Ben, I can feel the power coming off that thing. It's like nothing I've ever sensed before. Yeah, well, wait till you see what it did to my aliens. I stood up straighter, brushing sand from my jacket. We need to get to Plumber HQ. There's something big coming, and we need to be ready. Grandpa Max stared at the gauntlet, his weathered face more serious than I'd seen it in years. We were in the plumber base beneath Bellwood, the advanced alien tech humming around us as scanners tried to analyze the gauntlet and its stones. And this being just, gave it to you? He asked for the 3rd time. I nodded, flexing my fingers inside the gauntlet. It still felt strange, but not uncomfortable, like it had always been meant to be there. Said something about balance and power, and warned me about someone named Thanos. Oh, and called these Infinity Stones, specifically reality and space. I pointed to the red and blue stones respectively. Gwen was at a console nearby, searching through the plumber database. There's nothing in here about Infinity Stones or anyone named Thanos. But the dimensional readings we're getting from that gauntlet match the energy signature from the breaches popping up worldwide. Which have all closed now, Kevin added, leaning against a wall. Right after Ben came back with his fancy new glove. Grandpa Max rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The timing suggests a connection. Perhaps these stones were what caused the dimensional breaches in the first place. The dying alien said they needed to be scattered, to maintain balance, I said. Maybe that's what's happening. The stones are being distributed across different dimensions. And you got 2 of them, Gwen noted. Plus, they've somehow merged with the Omnitrix. Have you tried transforming since you got back? I shook my head. Not yet. But when I was XLR8 over there, I was different. Faster, and I could warp space somehow. Try it now, Grandpa Max suggested. Let's see what we're dealing with. I nodded and activated the Omnitrix through the gauntlet. The holographic display appeared as usual, but the alien silhouettes were definitely altered, each one glowing with hints of red and blue energy along with the usual green. I selected 4 arms, figuring his strength might be useful if things went wrong. The transformation washed over me, the familiar sensation of growing larger, stronger, 2 extra arms sprouting from my torso. But there was more. As the green light faded, I saw my red skin now had patterns of blue energy flowing through it, like circuitry. My 4 hands were surrounded by faint red auras, and I felt different. Lighter, despite being bigger, like gravity had less hold on me. Whoa, Kevin said, straightening up. That's new. I looked down at myself, flexing all 4 hands. I feel stronger, but also like I'm not entirely here. Like I'm partially in another dimension. Gwen approached cautiously, her hand raised with mana swirling around it. Your energy signature is completely different. It's like you're broadcasting on multiple dimensional frequencies at once. I reached out to touch a nearby console and nearly jumped when my hand passed partially through it. Okay, that's freaky. The reality stone, Grandpa Max said quietly. It must be altering your Tetramand form's physical properties. And the space stone is likely responsible for the phasing effect. I concentrated, trying to solidify my hand. To my surprise, it worked. Not only that, but I could feel the console's material composition, could sense how I might reshape it if I wanted to. I think I could change things, I said slowly. Like, really change them. Not just break them or lift them, but remake them. Grandpa Max's expression grew even more concerned. Ben, that kind of power, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the base. Red emergency lights began flashing. What now? I groaned. A plumber technician rushed in. Magister Tennyson. We've got multiple hostiles teleporting into downtown Bellwood. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. Grandpa Max was instantly in command mode. Deploy containment teams, non-lethal protocols. Evacuate civilians from the affected areas. On screen, Gwen called, typing rapidly at the console. The main view screen flickered to life, showing downtown Bellwood. What I saw made my 4 eyes widen. Creatures were materializing in the streets, not the rhino things from the desert, but humanoid beings in high-tech armor, carrying weapons that pulsed with the same energy as the stones in my gauntlet. They were methodically moving through the city, scanning buildings, clearly searching for something. Or someone. I think they're looking for me, I said, a chill running down my spine despite forearms' natural heat. Or rather, for these. I raised the gauntlet, the stones glowing brighter as if in response to the threat. Then we don't give them what they want, Grandpa Max said firmly. Ben, you need to stay here while we— No way, I cut him off. Those things are in my town, endangering people because of me. I'm not hiding. Ben, Gwen started, but I could see in her eyes she knew it was pointless. She sighed. At least don't go alone. Wouldn't dream of it, cuz. I grinned, the expression probably more intimidating on Forearm's face than I intended. Team Tennyson. Kevin absorbed the metal from a nearby piece of equipment, coating himself in shining armor. Team Tennyson. Grandpa Max looked like he wanted to argue further but knew better after all these years. I'll coordinate from here and have backup teams standing by. Be careful, all of you. We don't know what these beings are capable of. But we're about to find out, I said, heading for the exit. Let's go show these dimensional tourists why you don't mess with Bellwood. Downtown was chaos. People running, screaming, cars abandoned in the streets as the armored beings methodically moved through the city. From our vantage point on a rooftop, I counted at least 30 of them, all with the same basic design but with variations that suggested different functions or ranks. They're scanning for energy signatures, Gwen observed, her eyes glowing as she used her mana to sense their activities. Specifically, for the same energy those stones emit. So definitely looking for the gauntlet, Kevin said, cracking his metal knuckles. What's the play, Ben? I thought for a moment, studying the search pattern. They're being careful not to harm civilians, just scaring them off. That gives us an advantage. I say we take out the ones that seem to be in charge, see if the rest retreat. And if they don't? Gwen asked. I flexed my forearms, the red energy around my fists intensifying. Then we show them they picked the wrong planet to invade. We split up, Gwen taking the east side, Kevin the west, while I went straight down the middle. The plan was simple, quick, coordinated strikes to confuse and disorient before they could organize a response. I leapt from the rooftop, the space stone's power making me practically float down despite forearms' bulk. I landed behind two of the armored beings who seemed to be directing others. "Hey! Looking for something?" I called out. They spun around, weapons raised. One of them spoke, its voice mechanically translated into English. "The stone bearer. Surrender the gauntlet, and your world will be spared." "Yeah, about that." I lunged forward, faster than forearms should have been able to move, catching both beings with a forearm tackle that sent us crashing through an empty storefront. Not gonna happen. Their armor was tough, tougher than it looked. My fists bounced off with less impact than I expected. One of them fired its weapon, a beam of energy that I barely dodged. It hit a display case behind me, which didn't explode or melt as I expected, but simply vanished. Completely erased from existence. "Okay, those are definitely not standard issue," I muttered, changing tactics. Instead of trying to punch through the armor, I grabbed one being by the arms and one by the legs. Drawing on the space stone's power instinctively, I phased my hands partially into their armor, then solidified enough to get a grip on the machinery inside. With a grunt of effort, I pulled, and both suits of armor tore apart, leaving the beings inside exposed. They weren't human, more like insectoids, with multifaceted eyes and mandibles that clicked in what might have been alarm. "Sorry about your suits," I quipped, knocking their heads together with enough force to stun but not seriously injure them. "Bill me for the damages." Outside, I could hear the sounds of battle, Gwen's mana blasts and Kevin's fists finding their marks. But there were also civilian screams, coming from farther down the street. I burst back through the broken storefront to see three of the armored beings cornering a family who hadn't managed to evacuate in time, a mother, father, and two young kids, maybe 6 and 8 years old. "Hey!" I roared, charging toward them. "Pick on someone with 4 arms your own size." They turned, weapons raised, but hesitated when they saw the gauntlet on my lower left hand. That moment of hesitation was all I needed. I slammed into them with all the strength forearms possessed, enhanced by whatever the reality stone was doing to my powers. 2 went down immediately, their armor crumpling under the impact. The third got off a shot that grazed my shoulder, sending pain lancing down my arm. It didn't vanish the flesh, thankfully, but left a burn that sizzled and smoked. "Get to safety!" I shouted to the family, positioning myself between them and the remaining attacker. "Head for the plumber evacuation points." The father nodded, gathering his frightened family. "Thank you, Ben Tennyson." The fact that they recognized me even in alien form wasn't surprising. Bellwood had long since gotten used to my transformations. The family ran, the parents carrying their children to move faster. The being I'd knocked down was getting up, its weapon recharging with an ominous hum. I didn't give it the chance to fire. I grabbed a nearby mailbox, and as I touched it, I felt the reality stone's power flow through me into the object. The mailbox warped, changed, reformed into a net of heavy chains that I flung over the attacker, pinning it to the ground. "What the?" I stared at my hands. I hadn't consciously tried to transform the mailbox. The power had responded to my need, reshaping reality according to my intention rather than any specific command. I didn't have time to dwell on it. More of the beings were converging on my position, obviously having detected the gauntlet's energy signature. "Ben!" Gwen's voice came from above. She floated down on a platform of mana, her hair wild, eyes glowing with power. "There are too many. And more are teleporting in by the minute." Kevin skidded around a corner, his metal armor dented and scratched but still intact. "These guys don't stay down. And their weapons are seriously bad news," one of them nearly erased my arm. I looked around. They were right, we were becoming surrounded, with at least 20 of the armored beings forming a perimeter around us, their weapons all trained on the Gauntlet. "Surrender the stones," their apparent leader called out, stepping forward. Its armor was more elaborate, with glowing symbols etched across the chest plate. "They do not belong in this dimension. The balance has been disrupted." "Yeah, I got that memo," I replied, moving so that Gwen and Kevin were behind me. "But I was told to protect them, not hand them over to the first bunch of interdimensional bug faces that asked nicely." The leader's helmet retracted, revealing a face similar to the others but with markings that suggested greater age or rank. "You do not understand what you possess, Omnitrix wielder. Those stones contain power beyond your comprehension. They must be returned to their proper dimension before catastrophe ensues. And I'm just supposed to take your word for that?" I challenged. The being who gave them to me seemed pretty clear that I needed to protect them from someone named Thanos. "You work for him?" The leader actually recoiled at the name, mandibles clicking rapidly in what might have been fear. "Thanos seeks the stones for himself, to wield power no being should possess. We serve the Council of Worlds, who maintain the dimensional boundaries. The stones must be scattered, yes, but according to the ancient patterns, not left in the hands of single bearers who might be corrupted by them." I hesitated, glancing at Gwen and Kevin. Gwen's expression was thoughtful, while Kevin looked skeptical as usual. "They're not lying," Gwen said quietly. "At least, they believe what they're saying." "Still doesn't mean we should trust them," Kevin muttered. I turned back to the leader. "If what you're saying is true, then work with us. The Plumbers, our organization, deals with interdimensional threats all the time. We can help scatter these stones safely." The leader seemed to consider this, its alien features unreadable to human eyes. Finally, it spoke again. "Perhaps there is wisdom in your words. A temporary alliance might," it never finished the sentence. A pulse of energy, different from the weapons the beings carried, darker, more malevolent, struck the leader from behind. It disintegrated instantly, not even leaving ash behind. "No alliance will be necessary," a new voice said, cold, arrogant, familiar. Vilgax stepped into view, but not the Vilgax I knew. He was changed, his body crackling with the same dark energy that had just vaporized the alien leader. In his hand, he held what looked like a purple stone, pulsing with power. "Vilgax," I growled. "Should have known you'd find your way back." He smiled, a terrible sight on his tentacled face. "Indeed, Tennyson. And I brought a souvenir." He held up the purple stone. "The Power Stone. One of 6 infinity stones that, when combined, grant absolute dominion over all reality. I see you found 2 others." The remaining armored beings had all turned their weapons toward Vilgax, apparently recognizing a greater threat. He eyed them dismissively. "Servants of the Council. Parasites feeding on the scraps of true power." He closed his fist around the Power Stone, and purple energy exploded outward in a devastating wave. Where it touched the armored beings, they simply ceased to exist, erased so completely it was as if they had never been there at all. I reacted instinctively, throwing myself in front of Gwen and Kevin. Drawing on the Reality Stone's power, I created a barrier, not physical, but a wall of altered space where Vilgax's energy waves simply couldn't exist. The purple energy crashed against it, rippling like water hitting glass before dissipating. Vilgax's eyes narrowed. "Impressive. You're learning to use the stones already. But you're a novice wielding borrowed power. I have spent the last 6 hours communing directly with the Power Stone, letting it teach me its secrets." "Ben," Gwen whispered urgently. "We need to evacuate the rest of the civilians. Whatever's about to happen between you and Vilgax could level the city." She was right. Already, the conflicting energies from the stones were causing reality to warp around us. Streetlights bent at impossible angles. The asphalt rippled like water. Windows shattered and reformed in endless cycles. Get everyone out, I said, not taking my eyes off Vilgax. I'll keep him busy. Dude, you can't fight him alone, Kevin protested. I'm not alone. I raised the gauntlet, the reality and space stones blazing with light. I've got these. Now go. They hesitated for only a moment longer before Gwen created a mana platform beneath them both. Be careful, Ben, she called as they rose into the air, heading toward the areas where civilians might still be trapped. Vilgax watched them go with an amused expression. Sending your friends away to protect them? Noble, but futile. Once I have all the stones, nowhere in any dimension will be beyond my reach. Big talk from a squid who's been beaten by a teenager more times than I can count, I retorted, settling into a fighting stance. Let's see what these stones can really do. I slapped the Omnitrix symbol on my chest, cycling to a different alien. In a flash of green light, I transformed into chromastone, but like 4 arms, this version was different. My crystalline body now had veins of red and blue energy running through it, and I could feel the absorption powers I normally possessed amplified 100-fold. Vilgax didn't waste time on further conversation. He charged, the power stone's energy forming a gauntlet of purple force around his fist. I braced myself, channeling the space stone's energy to anchor me in position, impossible to move. His fist connected with my chest, and the impact was like nothing I'd ever experienced, a sun exploding against my body. But Chromastone's energy absorption combined with the Reality Stone's power didn't just let me take the hit, it let me reshape the energy, transform it, make it mine. I staggered back, my body glowing with absorbed power, now tinged with my own green energy alongside the red and blue of the stones. That the best you've got? Vilgax snarled and unleashed a barrage of energy blasts from the power stone. I dodged some, absorbed others, each hit making me stronger. The buildings around us weren't so lucky, they crumbled, transformed, or simply vanished depending on how the chaotic energies affected them. You feel it, don't you? Vilgax called as we fought. The intoxication of holding such power. Imagine what you could do with all 6 stones, Tennyson. You could reshape your world however you wished. No more crime, no more suffering, no more loss. And let me guess, I shot back, firing a beam of combined energy that Vilgax barely deflected. All I have to do is hand over my 2 stones to you, and you'll make that happen. Sorry, not buying what you're selling. Then I'll take them from your corpse. Vilgax roared, the power stone flaring so brightly it hurt to look at directly. The street between us erupted, a chasm opening all the way down to the sewers below. Buildings on either side groaned and began to collapse as their foundations were compromised. I had to do something before the entire block was destroyed. Focusing on the Reality Stone's power, I reached out not to change objects but to stabilize reality itself in the area. It was like trying to hold back an ocean with my bare hands, but gradually, the destruction slowed, then stopped. The building settled back into place, the street resealed itself. Vilgax looked impressed despite himself. The Reality Stone. Perhaps the most versatile of them all. But it drains its wielder quickly. He was right. I could feel the effort taking its toll, sweat beading on Chromastone's normally dry surface. I needed to end this fight quickly. I activated the space stone, not to move myself but to create a localized pocket dimension, a bubble of space where our battle could continue without endangering the city. The air around us shimmered, then solidified into a barrier that separated us from the normal world. Just you and me now, Vilgax, I said, my voice echoing strangely in the pocket dimension. No innocents to get caught in the crossfire. Vilgax looked around, genuinely surprised. You created a pocket dimension. On instinct? For the first time, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. Perhaps I've underestimated how quickly you adapt to new powers, Tennyson. Wouldn't be the first time, I quipped, then launched myself at him. What followed was a battle unlike any I'd fought before. We weren't just trading blows or energy blasts, we were warping reality itself with each attack. Vilgax would create spears of pure power, and I would turn them to harmless light before they reached me. I would open spatial rifts beneath his feet, and he would solidify the very air to create platforms to stand on. The pocket dimension around us groaned under the strain, colors bleeding into one another as the fabric of spacetime was repeatedly torn and repaired. I cycled through alien forms, Diamondhead, whose crystals now could reshape themselves at will, Heat Blast, whose flames burned across dimensions, Wildmutt, whose senses could now detect shifts in reality itself. But Vilgax was right about one thing: using the stones was draining me quickly. Each transformation lasted shorter than the one before. Each reality alteration took more concentration, more effort. Vilgax, meanwhile, seemed to be growing stronger. The power stone fed on conflict, on the expenditure of energy. The more we fought, the more power it gave him. After what felt like hours but might have been minutes in normal time, I found myself back in human form, the Omnitrix recharging, kneeling on what passed for ground in our pocket dimension. Vilgax stood over me, barely winded, the power stone pulsing eagerly in his grasp. "And so it ends, Ben Tennyson," he said, raising his hand for a final blow. "Your stones will be the next to join my collection." I looked up at him, buying time while the Omnitrix recharged. "Why do you want them so badly? What could you possibly need with that much power? You've already conquered worlds." "Worlds," Vilgax scoffed. "Tiny specks in an infinite cosmos. With the Infinity Stones, I can reshape all of reality to my liking. No more resistance, no more rebellions, no more heroes standing in my way. Just perfect order, with me as its architect." "Sounds boring," I managed to say, though my body ached with exhaustion. Vilgax's eyes narrowed. "Mock all you wish. Your time is over." The power stone flared, and a beam of concentrated purple energy shot toward me. With the Omnitrix still recharging, I had only the Gauntlet's power to rely on. Instinctively, I raised my hand, calling on both stones at once. What happened next was pure instinct. The Space Stone created a portal directly in front of me that absorbed Vilgax's attack. Simultaneously, the Reality Stone altered the nature of the energy itself, transforming destructive force into something else entirely. A second portal opened behind Vilgax, and from it erupted not the purple beam he had fired, but a torrent of what looked like liquid light, golden, radiant, and completely overwhelming. It engulfed him before he could react, his roar of rage cut short as the light seemed to seep into his very being. When it faded, Vilgax stood frozen, his body crystallized into a statue of glittering, translucent material. The power stone hovered above his outstretched hand, no longer in his grasp. I staggered to my feet, hardly believing what I'd just done. I hadn't destroyed Vilgax, I'd transformed him, converted his matter into some kind of dimensional crystal. He was alive in there, I could sense it, but completely immobilized. The power stone drifted toward me, as if drawn to its siblings in my gauntlet. When it reached me, it settled into one of the empty slots on the gauntlet with a soft click. Immediately, I felt a surge of strength, the exhaustion fading from my body as the stone's energy flowed into me. With 3 of the 6 stones now in my possession, I felt powerful enough to collapse the pocket dimension. Reality rippled, then snapped back into place around us. We were standing in downtown Bellwood again, though thankfully in an area that had already been evacuated. The crystallized form of Vilgax stood like a bizarre statue in the middle of the street. The Omnitrix beeped, finally recharged, but I remained in human form for the moment, staring at my hand where 3 Infinity Stones now glowed. "Ben!" I turned to see Gwen and Kevin running toward me, relief evident on their faces. "You're okay?" Gwen exclaimed, then stopped short when she saw Vilgax. "Is he contained?" I said. "I'm not exactly sure how I did it, but he's trapped in there. Alive, but unable to move or use his powers." Kevin whistled, circling the crystal statue. "Remind me never to make you mad." "You've got another one," Gwen observed, pointing to the purple stone now set in the gauntlet. I nodded. The Power Stone. That makes 3. I flexed my hand, feeling the combined energy of the stones coursing through me. It was intoxicating, like being every alien in the Omnitrix all at once. 3 more to go. Kevin gave me a sharp look. You're planning to collect them? After what just happened? Dude, half the city is wrecked from just a fight between 2 of these things. I looked around, really taking in the destruction for the first time. Broken buildings, cracked streets, overturned cars. It was bad, though thankfully there didn't seem to be any casualties. The evacuation had worked. I don't think I have a choice, I said slowly. That being who gave me the gauntlet warned me to find the stones before someone named Thanos does. And from how Vilgax and those council servants reacted to the name, this Thanos is serious bad news. Worse than Vilgax with a stone? Gwen asked skeptically. Apparently. I sighed, suddenly feeling the weight of responsibility more heavily than I had in years. Look, I don't like it either. But these things are too dangerous to just leave out there for anyone to find. And with the Omnitrix somehow merged with the Gauntlet, I might be the only one who can control them safely. Or you might be exactly who shouldn't have them, a new voice said. We all turned to see Professor Paradox standing a few feet away, his ageless face uncharacteristically solemn, his pocket watch hanging open in his hand. Professor, I greeted him, relieved to see a friendly face who might actually have answers. Perfect timing. Time is rather the issue at hand, young Benjamin, Paradox said, approaching to examine the gauntlet more closely. Or rather, the disruption of it. The Infinity Stones were never meant to enter this dimension, let alone bond with the Omnitrix. The repercussions are concerning. So help me get rid of them, I offered. Take them back to where they belong. Paradox shook his head. I cannot. The stones exist outside the normal flow of time. Even my abilities cannot fully interact with them. And now that they have bonded with the Omnitrix, attempting to separate them might destroy both, and you along with them. Great. Just great. So what do I do? I asked, frustration edging into my voice. I can't just walk around with the power to reshape reality on my wrist. I've got finals next week. Despite the severity of the situation, Paradox's lips quirked in a small smile. Your priorities remain refreshingly human, Benjamin. Hold on to that perspective, it may be what saves you, and us all. He grew serious again. For now, you must learn to control the stone's power, not let it control you. And you must find the remaining 3 before they fall into the wrong hands. Thanos, I said. Paradox nodded grimly. Indeed. A being of tremendous power and singular purpose from the dimension these stones originate from. If he acquires them all, not just his universe but all universes will face devastation. No pressure, Kevin muttered. Where do we even start looking? Gwen asked practically. The other stones could be anywhere. Paradox gestured to the gauntlet. The stones are connected. They can sense each other across dimensions. With 3 in your possession, Benjamin, you should be able to locate the others when they appear in our dimension. As if on cue, the 3 stones pulsed in unison, sending a jolt up my arm that wasn't exactly painful but definitely attention-grabbing. I think they're trying to tell me something, I said, focusing on the sensation. An image formed in my mind, a mountain range I recognized, and a pulsing point of green light. The Time Stone. It's appearing somewhere in the Rockies, I think. Then we'd better move fast, Gwen said decisively. If you can sense it, others might be able to as well. I nodded, then looked at Paradox. What about Vilgax? And the city? I'll ensure Vilgax is properly contained, Paradox assured me. As for Bellwood, the plumbers are already coordinating with local authorities for repairs and cover stories. The usual protocols. It didn't feel right leaving with the city in shambles, but I knew finding the next stone had to take priority. 3 down, 3 to go, and who knew what else might be coming for them. Alright, Team, I said, activating the Omnitrix. Let's go stone hunting. The familiar green light washed over me as I transformed into Jetray, but like the others, this form was enhanced by the stones. My wings now appeared to fold space itself with each flap, and trails of reality-bending energy followed in my wake. Whoa, I heard Kevin say as I rose into the air, Gwen creating a mana platform to carry her and Kevin alongside me. This is gonna get weird, isn't it? Weirder than usual, definitely, Gwen agreed. I looked down at the 3 stones glowing in the gauntlet, feeling their power humming through my transformed body, and knew they were right. My life had always been strange, ever since I found the Omnitrix that summer when I was 10 years old. But this was something else entirely. Hang on tight, I called to my friends as we soared toward the Rockies, toward the next stone, toward whatever destiny awaited us. This is just getting started. Chapter 2, Power corrupts. 3 weeks since I got the gauntlet, and I still couldn't sleep through the night. The stones pulsed with energy even when I wasn't using them, like they were whispering to me. Tonight was worse than usual. I floated 2 feet above my bed, the reality stone making gravity optional in my bedroom. Mom had freaked the first time she found me like this, walked in with laundry and dropped the whole basket when she saw me just hovering there. Dad thought it was cool, of course. He wanted me to use the stones to fix his car engine. I did one better and completely reimagined it with alien tech. Now his rusty old pickup could hit 200 miles per hour and didn't need gas. Small stuff, really. Just testing the waters. I flexed my left hand, watching the 4 infinity stones shimmer in the moonlight filtering through my window. Reality, space, power, and now time. The green time stone was the newest addition, snagged from a cave in the Rockies where it had been causing some seriously weird temporal anomalies. Trees growing from saplings to ancient giants in minutes, then back again. Animals evolving and de-evolving before our eyes. Fun times. My phone buzzed. A text from Gwen, "You awake?" I grabbed it with my right hand, typing back, "Always." 3 dots appeared as she typed, "We need to talk." About the stones. I sighed. Of course we did. That's all anyone wanted to talk about lately. Grandpa Max, Gwen, Kevin, even Asmuth had been blowing up my communicator. Everyone suddenly had opinions about how I should use my powers. My powers. Not theirs. Can't it wait till morning? I texted back. It is morning. 4:37 a.m. And no. I glanced at the time on my phone. Ha. Lost track again. That had been happening a lot lately. Fine. Where? Mr. Smoothie. 20 minutes. I smirked. The time stone pulsed on my gauntlet, and I reached out with my mind, touching the fabric of time itself. The world outside my window blurred, shadows racing as time accelerated around me. I stopped when the shadows indicated morning had arrived. Checking my phone, 7:30 a.m. I just skipped nearly 3 hours in a heartbeat. Or we could meet now, I texted Gwen. Her reply came immediately, "Ben. Did you just?" I laughed and hopped out of bed, letting myself drift back to the floor. I threw on jeans and a green jacket, not bothering to take a shower. With the reality stone, I could just make myself clean with a thought. Mom was in the kitchen when I came downstairs, making breakfast. "Morning, honey. You're up early," she said, flipping pancakes. Meeting Gwen at Mr. Smoothie, I replied, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl. She gave me that worried look I'd gotten used to seeing. "Ben, are you feeling okay? Your eyes look different." I avoided the hallway mirror. I knew what she meant. My eyes had changed, flecks of color that matched the stones occasionally swirled in my irises. Just another side effect. "I'm fine, Mom." Better than fine. I took a bite of the apple, then realized I wasn't actually hungry. With a casual wave of my gauntlet hand, I transformed the half-eaten apple back to whole and set it down. Gotta go. Outside, I considered my options. I could drive my car. I could turn into XLR8. Or. I smiled and raised the gauntlet. The space stone glowed bright blue, and reality tore open in front of me, a perfect portal showing Mr. Smoothie on the other side. I stepped through, the portal closing behind me with a soft whoosh. Gwen was already there, sitting at an outside table with Kevin. They both jumped when I appeared. "Dude!" Kevin exclaimed. "Little warning next time." I shrugged and dropped into a chair across from them. Why drive when you can teleport? Gwen's expression was tight, her green eyes studying me intently. That's actually what we wanted to talk about. The teleporting? It's perfectly safe, you know. The space stone, not just the teleporting, she interrupted. It's everything, Ben. The way you're using the stones for everything. Skipping through time, altering reality for the smallest conveniences. You've barely turned into any of your aliens in days. You just use the stones for everything now. I leaned back in my chair, irritation flaring. So what? They're tools, Gwen. Really awesome tools that make my life easier. Isn't that the point? Kevin leaned forward, his dark eyes serious. The point is, you're changing, Tennyson. And not in a good way. This again? I groaned. Yes, this again, Gwen said firmly. Last week when we fought that Tekadon robot downtown, you didn't even try to contain the damage. You just warped reality and erased half a city block. And then I put it back, I countered. Better than before, actually. Those buildings were falling apart anyway. That's not the point. Gwen's voice rose. You can't just reshape reality whenever it's convenient. There are consequences, natural laws that don't apply to me anymore. I cut in, the stones on the gauntlet pulsing in response to my rising emotions. Do you even realize what I can do now? What I can fix? I ended 3 wars last week by just removing all the weapons from entire countries. I cured a rare disease in Africa by rewriting its molecular structure. I'm helping people, Gwen. Kevin's expression darkened. You're playing God, Tennyson. The words hit harder than I expected. My fingers curled into a fist, the gauntlet glowing brighter. A couple at a nearby table gasped as their smoothies briefly turned to liquid gold before I caught myself and restored them to normal. I'm doing what no one else can, I said, my voice low. What no one else will. The universe dropped these stones in my lap for a reason. That's what worries us, Gwen said, her voice softening. You sound just like Vilgax. I laughed bitterly. Yeah, I've heard that comparison from Grandpa Max already. Real original. I was going to say you sound like you did when you created Alien X and wanted to reshape the universe, she corrected. Before you understood the responsibility that came with that kind of power. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against concrete. I understand responsibility better than anyone. I've been saving the world since I was 10 years old, remember? Maybe I'm just tired of doing it the hard way when I finally have the power to make permanent changes. My plumber badge buzzed in my pocket before Gwen could respond. I pulled it out, almost grateful for the interruption. Ben here. Ben, it's Grandpa Max. His voice was tense, urgent. We've got a situation in Undertown. Some kind of energy surge similar to when you found the time stone. And reports of gang warfare breaking out around the source. My eyes met Gwen's. We both knew what that meant, another infinity stone had appeared. On my way, I said, closing the connection. I stood up, already raising the gauntlet to open a portal. Ben, wait. Gwen grabbed my arm. Promise me you'll be careful. These stones, they affect you every time you use them. Your eyes, your voice, the way you talk about power, I'm fine, I insisted, pulling my arm away. Are you coming or not? Gwen and Kevin exchanged glances, having one of those silent conversations couples develop. We're coming, Kevin said finally. Someone's gotta keep an eye on you. I rolled my eyes but opened a portal large enough for all three of us, revealing the underground alien marketplace of Undertown on the other side. The scene was chaos, alien gangsters from rival factions firing energy weapons at each other, civilians running for cover, merchandise and stalls in flames. We stepped through, the portal closing behind us. Immediately, I felt it, a pull, a resonance with the stones in my gauntlet. Another infinity stone was definitely here. I can sense it, I said, the gauntlet glowing brighter. It's close. Which one is it? Gwen asked, already throwing up mana shields to protect fleeing civilians from stray energy blasts. I concentrated, letting the stones in my possession guide me. It feels powerful. Raw. Must be the power stone. Great, Kevin muttered, absorbing the metal from a nearby pipe. Because you really need more power. I ignored the jab and started forward, following the pull of the stone. The fighting was most intense around what used to be the central marketplace, now a battlefield between the Tetramand gang and Siphon's crew. Stop! I shouted, amplifying my voice with the reality stone so it boomed through the underground space. This ends now. Several aliens turned to look, weapons still raised. Siphon himself stepped forward, his pale face twisted in a sneer. Ben Tennyson. Always showing up where you're not wanted. His eyes fixed on my gauntlet hand, widening slightly. So the rumors are true. You found more of them. More of what? I demanded, though I already knew the answer. Siphon's thin lips curved in a smile. The Infinity Stones, of course. The entire criminal underworld has been buzzing about them for weeks. And now another has appeared, right here in Undertown. Finders keepers, Tennyson. I don't think so. I raised the gauntlet, the 4 stones glowing brightly. Last chance to back off, all of you. I'm taking that stone. A Tetramand leader stepped forward, all 4 arms holding heavy weapons. The stone belongs to whoever is strong enough to claim it. Our territory, our prize. Your funeral, I said with a shrug. I didn't even bother transforming. With a gesture, the space stone created localized gravity wells that yanked weapons from dozens of hands. Another flick of my wrist, and the reality stone transmuted those weapons into harmless water that splashed to the ground. Some of the smarter gang members started backing away. Others, including the Tetramand leader, charged at me with bare hands or whatever weapons they'd managed to hold on to. I sighed. We're doing this the hard way, then. The power stone surged at my command, and I released a wave of concussive force that sent attackers flying in all directions. None of them got within 10 feet of me. Ben! Gwen called out, her voice strained as she maintained shields around civilians. Take it down a notch. You're bringing the ceiling down. I glanced up. She was right, cracks were spreading through the rock ceiling of Undertown, dust and small chunks already raining down. Fine, I muttered. Let's make this quick. I focused on the pull of the 5th Infinity Stone, following it like a beacon through the chaos. It led to a newly formed crater in the center of the marketplace where something glowed with violent purple energy. Siphon had regrouped with some of his goons and was approaching from another angle. It will burn you to ash, Tennyson. Only I have the technology to contain it. Sure you do, I scoffed. I stepped to the edge of the crater and looked down. There it was, the power stone, its purple glow pulsing like a heartbeat, sending visible waves of energy rippling through the air around it. Even from a few feet away, I could feel its raw, untamed power calling to me. The gauntlet responded to its presence, the 4 stones I already possessed glowing brighter, almost eager. There was an empty slot waiting for this new addition. Ben, wait. Gwen had fought her way to my side, Kevin right behind her. Remember what happened when you took the time stone. Each one changes you. Makes me stronger, I corrected. Makes you different, Kevin said. And not in a good way, man. I hesitated for just a moment, looking at their concerned faces. Then a blast from one of Siphon's weapons struck near our feet. No time for debate, I said, and jumped into the crater. The power stone's energy intensified as I approached, violet lightning arcing from its surface. The ground beneath it had been transformed into some kind of crystalline material, evidence of its raw power affecting its surroundings. I reached out with my gauntlet hand, and the stone rose to meet me, floating up from its resting place. The moment before contact, I felt a twinge of doubt, remembering the dying alien's warning about balance and power. Then the power stone settled into its place on the gauntlet with a soft click, and everything changed. Power. Raw, unlimited, intoxicating power flooded through me. My vision blurred, then sharpened beyond human capability. I could see the individual dust motes in the air, could perceive the unique energy signature of every living being around me. I rose from the crater, floating effortlessly, the 5 infinity stones now blazing on my gauntlet. The combined light cast strange shadows across Undertown, painting everything in shifting hues of red, blue, purple, and green. Ben. Gwen's voice sounded distant, though she stood right beside the crater. Are you okay? I looked down at her, really seeing her for the first time. Not just her physical form, but the mana that flowed through her, the complex patterns of her life force, the quantum possibilities that surrounded her existence. I'm better than okay, I said, my voice resonating oddly even to my own ears. I can see everything, Gwen. Feel everything. The gangs had stopped fighting, all eyes now fixed on me with expressions ranging from awe to terror. Siphon was backing away slowly, his usual arrogance replaced by naked fear. The powers affecting him, Kevin said urgently to Gwen. We need to get that gauntlet off him. I laughed, the sound causing ripples in reality around me. You couldn't if you tried. To demonstrate, I raised the gauntlet and, with the barest thought, transformed the entire marketplace. Damaged stalls rebuilt themselves. Destroyed merchandise restored to pristine condition. The cracks in the ceiling sealed as if they'd never been there. See? I said, floating down to stand before them. I can fix everything now. Gwen stepped forward cautiously. Ben, listen to yourself. This isn't you talking, it's the stones. Remember what Paradox said about them influencing your mind? I frowned. Paradox doesn't understand what I can do now. What I can become. And what's that, exactly? Kevin challenged, though I could see the fear he was trying to hide. Before I could answer, a new sensation washed over me, a warning from the stones themselves. Danger. Something was coming. Something powerful. I spun around just as reality tore open across the marketplace, not a controlled portal like I created, but a jagged wound in spacetime. From it emerged a figure that radiated menace. Tall and gaunt, with gray skin and cruel features, he wore armor of an alien design and carried a wicked double-bladed glaive that hummed with energy. His eyes fixed immediately on my gauntlet, narrowing with purpose. The stone thief, he snarled, his voice like gravel. I found you at last. Who the hell are you? I demanded, the stones flaring defensively on my gauntlet. I am Corvus Glaive, child. First Lieutenant to Lord Thanos. He stepped forward, his weapon raised. And I have come for what you have stolen. Thanos. The name the dying alien had warned me about. The being who wanted the stones for himself. You're too late, I said, floating upward again, power surging through me. Finders keepers. Corvus Glaive smiled, cold and predatory. My master suspected the stones might have bonded to a native of this reality. No matter. If I cannot take the stones alone, I will take you with them. He moved with shocking speed, his glaive slicing through the air where I'd been a split second before. I'd barely dodged in time, the space stone instinctively shifting me 3 feet to the left. Everybody out! I shouted to the gathered aliens, who were already fleeing toward the exits. Gwen, Kevin, get these people to safety. We're not leaving you. Gwen yelled back, already throwing mana discs at Corvus, who deflected them with contemptuous ease. You cannot fight him alone, Tennyson. Kevin had coated himself in metal and was charging forward. I'm not alone, I said, the stones glowing brighter on my gauntlet. I've got these. The power stone responded first, sending a wave of violent energy toward Corvus. He spun his glaive like a propeller, somehow dispersing the energy around him rather than through him. The power stone responds to your anger, he said, advancing steadily. But you wield it like a child with a loaded weapon, all force, no finesse. I snarled and hit the Omnitrix, transforming in a flash of green light. Humongosaur. The transformation felt different, more complete, more powerful. My Vaxasaurian form grew larger than ever before, 20 feet tall instantly, with glowing patterns of energy from the 5 stones running across my scaled hide. I roared and charged, the ground shaking beneath my massive feet. Corvus didn't retreat, he charged right back, his glaive aimed at my chest. We collided with enough force to collapse one of the support pillars of Undertown. Dust and debris rained down as we grappled, my enormous strength against his surprising agility and skill. Your transformations are impressive, Corvus hissed, somehow slipping from my grasp and slashing my arm with his glaive. But I have hunted beings with powers far greater than yours across 1,000 worlds. The wound burned with unnatural pain, refusing to heal despite the stone's power. I roared again and slammed my fists down, the reality stone responding to my rage by transmuting the ground beneath Corvus into quicksand. He sank for a moment, then used his glaive to vault free, landing gracefully despite the shifting terrain. The reality stone. Powerful, but undirected in your hands. His criticism stung more than I wanted to admit. I switched tactics, calling on the time stone to slow time around him. Corvus moved as if through molasses, his expression showing the first hint of concern. I took advantage of his reduced speed to land a massive blow that sent him flying into a wall. The impact should have shattered every bone in his body, but he emerged from the dust cloud seemingly only winded, his armor cracked but his determination undiminished. Now you begin to understand, he said, spitting out a mouthful of black blood. The time stone requires concentration to maintain its effect. I'm learning fast, I growled, switching forms again. Diamond Head. My crystalline body formed with the same energy patterns as Humongosaur, the stone's power enhancing my natural abilities. I sent a barrage of crystal shards at Corvus, controlling their trajectory with the space stone to attack from multiple angles simultaneously. He spun and dodged with supernatural grace, his glaive cutting through crystals that came too close. But he couldn't avoid them all, several shards embedded in his armor, drawing more of that strange black blood. You fight well, for a novice, Corvus acknowledged, pulling a crystal from his shoulder with a grimace. But this battle endangers your people needlessly. He gestured around us, and I realized with horror that our fight had caused extensive damage to Undertown. Despite Gwen and Kevin's efforts to evacuate civilians, not everyone had escaped. Aliens were trapped under collapsed structures, injured by flying debris. I hesitated, my attention divided, and Corvus struck. His glaive sliced through my diamond form, the weapon's energy somehow negating my natural durability. I staggered back, feeling something I rarely experienced as Diamond Head, pain. Ben. Gwen's voice came from somewhere to my right. She had created a mana dome around a group of injured aliens, protecting them from falling debris. Seeing her struggle to maintain the shield while debris continued to fall snapped something inside me. No one threatened my family. No one endangered my city. Enough games, I snarled, the gauntlet blazing on my crystalline hand. I called on all 5 stones at once, their combined power flowing through me like a river of fire. My diamond head form changed, grew, the crystals of my body becoming translucent with shifting colors that matched the stones. The space stone created a dome around the battlefield, isolating our fight from the civilians. The power stone amplified my strength to levels I'd never experienced. The reality stone reshaped my crystal projectiles into seeking weapons that Corvus couldn't predict or evade. The time stone let me perceive his movements before he made them. Corvus' glaive, for the first time, looked genuinely alarmed. He backed away, his glaive raised defensively. You cannot control that much power at once. You'll tear this reality apart. Watch me, I said, my voice echoing with the stone's energy. I unleashed everything at once, a concentrated blast of pure infinity energy that struck Corvus squarely in the chest. The impact sent him flying through multiple walls, finally stopping when he hit the base of one of Undertown's main support pillars. The pillar cracked. Began to crumble. No. I heard Gwen scream, trying desperately to reinforce it with mana. Too late, I realized my mistake. That pillar supported a huge section of Undertown, and above it, part of Bellwood itself. If it collapsed. I moved without thinking, letting the Omnitrix and Gauntlet guide me. I transformed into clockwork, the mechanical alien's time powers amplified 1,000-fold by the time stone. I froze the collapsing pillar in mid-crumble, holding the moment perfectly still while I used the reality stone to restructure and reinforce it. When I released time's flow, the pillar stood stronger than before, but the strain of using so much power at once sent me to my knees, reverting to human form. Corvus emerged from the rubble, his armor shattered, black blood flowing from multiple wounds. But he still held his glaive, and his eyes still burned with determination. You see, he rasped, limping toward me. The power overwhelms you. You barely saved them. I tried to stand, the gauntlet feeling heavier than ever. Stay back. My master understands these stones as no other being does, Corvus continued, each step bringing him closer. He has studied them for centuries, prepared himself for their burden. You are but a child playing with forces beyond your comprehension. I said stay back. I shouted, the power stone responding with a pulse of energy that knocked Corvus off his feet. He landed hard but laughed, a chilling sound. The stones respond to your emotions. Dangerous. Uncontrolled. You will destroy everything you seek to protect. Before I could respond, a beam of pink energy struck Corvus, sending him skidding across the ground. Gwen stood 20 feet away, her hands glowing with mana, her face set with determination. Stay away from my cousin, she warned. Kevin appeared beside her, his body now covered in the same strange metal as Corvus's armor, which he must have absorbed during the fight. Time for you to leave, pal. Corvus' glaive looked at them, then at me, calculating. Finally, he straightened, his injuries seeming to bother him less than they should have. This is merely the beginning, he said to me. My master will come for the stones. And when he does, your world will burn. He raised his glaive and slashed at the air itself, tearing open a portal similar to the one he'd arrived through. With a final, threatening glance, he stepped through, and the portal closed behind him. The silence that followed was broken by groans of pain and calls for help. The damage to Undertown was extensive, collapsed stalls, broken water pipes, injured aliens everywhere. I staggered to my feet, the gauntlet feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. We need to help them. Gwen approached cautiously, her eyes fixed on my face. Ben, your eyes. What about them? She swallowed hard. They're changing. There are colors swirling in them, the same colors as the stones. I ignored this, focusing instead on the destruction around us. I can fix this. I can fix all of it. Ben, wait, Kevin started, but I was already raising the gauntlet. The 5 stones blazed with light as I reached out with my mind, reshaping reality according to my will. Broken structures reassembled themselves. Injured aliens found their wounds healed. Water pipes resealed, fires extinguished, everything restored to how it had been before the fight. But I didn't stop there. I could see flaws in the original design of Undertown: weak supports, poor ventilation, inadequate emergency exits. Why just restore what was, when I could make it better? I continued, reinforcing the entire structure of Undertown, improving its systems, even enhancing the technology of the alien marketplace. Stalls that had been simple wood and cloth became gleaming metal and force fields. Simple alien tech evolved into more advanced versions of itself. Ben, that's enough. Gwen's voice penetrated my concentration. You're changing too much. I lowered my hand slowly, looking around at what I'd created. Undertown was unrecognizable, transformed from a dingy, haphazard marketplace into a gleaming alien metropolis. The aliens themselves were staring around in shock and confusion, some backing away from me in fear, others approaching with expressions of awe. I made it better, I said, though even to my own ears, my voice sounded different, deeper, resonating with the stone's energy. Kevin whistled low. Dude, you didn't fix it, you completely reimagined it. This isn't Undertown anymore. I don't even know what it is. I frowned, not understanding their concern. Couldn't they see how much better everything was now? Safer, more efficient, more advanced. Ben. Gwen put her hand on my arm, her touch gentle but her expression deadly serious. This is exactly what we were worried about. You're remaking the world according to what you think is best, without asking anyone what they want. I'm helping, I insisted. Are you? She gestured to the aliens around us, many of whom were now gathering their belongings and fleeing toward the exits, casting fearful glances back at me. Look at their faces, Ben. That's not gratitude, it's fear. The realization hit me hard. They were afraid, of me. Of what I'd done with a mere thought. I didn't mean to scare anyone, I said, suddenly uncertain. I just wanted to help. We know, Kevin said, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. But this power, it's changing how you think, Tennyson. Changing what you think is helpful. Before I could respond, my plumber badge buzzed. I pulled it out with my right hand, the gauntlet suddenly feeling too heavy on my left. Ben here. Ben. Grandpa Max's voice was tight with barely controlled emotion. What just happened in Undertown? We're getting readings that suggest a complete restructuring of matter across a half-mile radius. I fixed it, Grandpa. Made it better. A pause. Then, come to Plumber HQ, immediately. The connection cut off. I looked at Gwen and Kevin, who were watching me with identical expressions of concern. He sounds mad, I said, trying to make it a joke. He's worried, Gwen corrected gently. We all are. Plumber headquarters was buzzing with activity when we arrived. Aliens and humans in plumber uniforms rushed back and forth, monitoring screens displayed data from around the globe, and an air of tension hung over everything. Grandpa Max was waiting for us in the command center, his weathered face grave. He barely glanced at Gwen and Kevin, his eyes fixed on me, specifically, on the gauntlet where 5 infinity stones now glowed. Another one, he said quietly. And from the readings we're getting, it's the Power Stone. I nodded, flexing my hand. Found it in Undertown. And I had a run-in with one of Thanos' lieutenants, guy named Corvus Glaive. That got a reaction. Grandpa Max straightened, his expression sharpening. Thanos is making his move already? That's faster than we anticipated. You know about Thanos? Kevin asked, surprised. Professor Paradox filled us in, Grandpa Max explained. We've been monitoring for any signs of incursion from his dimension. He turned back to me. What happened with this Corvus? I beat him, I said simply. He retreated back to wherever he came from. Grandpa Max studied my face. And the changes to Undertown? I shifted uncomfortably. There was damage from the fight. I fixed it. Made some improvements while I was at it. Improvements, he repeated flatly. Ben, you completely restructured an established alien community without consulting anyone. The technology you introduced is centuries beyond what should be available on Earth. The changes you made to the structural support system affect the stability of parts of Bellwood above. I made it better, I insisted, a flash of irritation cutting through my discomfort. Safer. More advanced. That wasn't your call to make. Grandpa Max rarely raised his voice, but he did now, drawing stares from nearby plumbers. He took a breath, visibly calming himself. Ben, we need to talk about the Gauntlet and what it's doing to you. There's nothing to talk about, I said, the stones pulsing in response to my rising emotions. I've got 5 of the 6 Infinity Stones. I'm using them to help people. To make things better. Ben, Gwen cut in softly, your definition of better is changing every time you use those stones. Before I could respond, a new voice joined the conversation, synthetic, with an unmistakable touch of arrogance. As I predicted, the Omnitrix and the Infinity Stones have begun altering your neurochemistry. Fascinating, if deeply concerning. I turned to see a hologram appearing on the central platform, small, gray, with large eyes and a perpetual frown. Azimuth. The creator of the Omnitrix studied me with those ancient, knowing eyes. Benjamin. You look changed. Everyone keeps saying that, I muttered. Because it is glaringly obvious, Azimuth replied dryly. Your physical appearance has begun to reflect the energies you're channeling. Your eyes now contain shifting patterns that match the stone's colors. Your voice resonates on multiple dimensional frequencies. Even your cellular structure is showing signs of adaptive evolution. I blinked, surprised. I'm evolving. Not in any natural sense, Azimuth clarified. The stones are reshaping you into a more suitable vessel for their power. A most dangerous development. Dangerous how? Grandpa Max asked sharply. Azimuth's hologram expanded, displaying diagrams of the Omnitrix merged with the Gauntlet, surrounded by readings and calculations I couldn't begin to understand. The Omnitrix was designed to allow temporary transformation into various alien species while maintaining the user's core identity and DNA integrity, Azimuth explained. The Infinity Stones operate on principles that fundamentally contradict this design. They seek to permanently transform their wielder into a being capable of channeling their full power. And that's bad? I asked, not seeing the problem. Azimuth fixed me with a withering stare. It is catastrophic. The Omnitrix and the stones are engaged in a tug-of-war over your genetic structure. The Omnitrix is trying to maintain your humanity while the stones are trying to transcend it. A chill ran down my spine. What happens if the stones win? You would become something other than human. Something other than any known species in the universe. A singular entity existing on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Azimuth's voice softened slightly, which was alarming in itself. He rarely showed concern. In essence, you would cease to be Ben Tennyson. Silence fell over the command center. Gwen's hand found its way to my shoulder, squeezing gently. So what do we do? I finally asked, my voice smaller than I'd intended. The Gauntlet must be removed, Azimuth said firmly. The connection between it and the Omnitrix severed before the transformation becomes irreversible. I looked down at the Gauntlet, at the 5 glowing stones embedded in it, at the Omnitrix now incorporated into its structure. I've tried. It won't come off. Not by conventional means, no, Azimuth agreed. But I believe I can develop a method to safely separate them. I will need time to study the energies involved. Time we may not have, Grandpa Max said grimly. If this Thanos is already sending his lieutenants, he won't be far behind. Then I need these powers more than ever, I argued. I'm the only one who can fight Thanos when he comes. Perhaps, Azimuth conceded. But if the merger continues unchecked, there may be nothing left of Ben Tennyson to wield that power with the wisdom and restraint needed. Kevin snorted. Restraint isn't exactly Tennyson's strong suit these days. I shot him a glare, the power stone flaring briefly. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're getting drunk on power, dude, Kevin said bluntly. Look at what you did to Undertown. Look at how you talk to people now. You're starting to act like all those bad guys you used to fight, the ones who thought they knew best for everyone else. His words stung because there was truth in them. I had been changing, thinking differently, acting differently. The stones whispered to me constantly now, showing me possibilities, ways to reshape the world, fix its problems. I'm still me, I insisted, but with less conviction than before. For now, Azimuth said quietly. But for how much longer? The Omnitrix draws power from your own life force, Benjamin. It is anchored to your humanity. As that humanity changes, the Omnitrix could fail, I finished, a new fear taking root. If I lost the Omnitrix along with my humanity, who would I even be? Grandpa Max stepped forward, placing his hand on my other shoulder. Ben, we'll figure this out together. But until then, I need you to promise you'll be more careful with using the stones. Minimal use, only in emergencies. I wanted to argue, to explain how much good I could do, but the genuine concern in his eyes stopped me. I'll try. That's all I ask. He squeezed my shoulder, then turned to Azimuth. How long will you need to develop a separation method? Difficult to say, the Galvan inventor replied. The energies involved are unlike anything I've encountered. Days, at minimum. Perhaps weeks. We'll keep Ben safe until then, Gwen promised. I bristled slightly at the implication I needed protection but kept my mouth shut. Maybe they were right to be concerned. Maybe the stones were affecting me more than I realized. In the meantime, Grandpa Max said, we need to locate the final stone before Thanos does. Any way to track it, Ben? I closed my eyes, focusing on the 5 stones I possessed, feeling their connection to their missing sibling. It's not here yet. Not in our dimension. But it's close. Like it's trying to break through. We'll set up detection grids worldwide, Grandpa Max decided. The moment it appears, we move. Azimuth's hologram flickered. I will begin work immediately. Benjamin. He hesitated, which was so unlike him it caught my full attention. Be mindful of the whispers. The stones speak to all who wield them, showing visions of perfection that are merely illusions to seduce the bearer into using more of their power. I'll be careful, I promised again. The hologram nodded once, then vanished. Grandpa Max turned to address the command center at large. Set up monitoring stations worldwide. I want immediate alerts on any dimensional anomalies, energy spikes, or unusual phenomena. And prepare defensive protocols for a potential level 1 alien incursion. As the plumbers rushed to comply, he turned back to me. You should rest, Ben. That fight in Undertown took a lot out of you. He was right. Despite the constant energy flowing from the stones, I felt drained in a way that went beyond physical fatigue, like the battle with Corvus had taxed something deeper than muscles or stamina. Yeah, okay. I'll head home. Actually, Gwen cut in, why don't you stay at Plumber HQ tonight? There are quarters here, and, well, it might be safer. Safer for who? The unspoken question hung in the air. For me from Thanos? Or for everyone else from me? Fine, I said, too tired to argue. But I'm calling my parents first. Don't want them to worry. The quarters assigned to me at Plumber HQ were sparse but comfortable, a bed, desk, bathroom, and not much else. I sat on the edge of the bed, Gauntlet resting on my knee, staring at the 5 infinity stones as they pulsed with their hypnotic light. My conversation with my parents had been awkward. I told them I was working on a plumber mission and would be staying at headquarters for a few days. Mom had that worried tone again, asking if I was eating enough, if I was being careful. Dad tried to sound casual but couldn't hide his concern. They knew something was wrong. Everyone did. Am I really changing that much? I asked the empty room. The stones pulsed in response, almost like they were answering. Yes, they seemed to say. And isn't it wonderful? I flopped back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. When had things gotten so complicated? 3 weeks ago, I was just Ben Tennyson, wielder of the Omnitrix, part-time plumber, full-time hero. Now I was, what? A vessel for cosmic power? A dimensional anomaly in progress? The power stone throbbed on the gauntlet, sending a jolt of energy up my arm that was almost pleasant. With it came visions, of what I could do, what I could become. I could end war forever. Cure every disease. Eliminate poverty, hunger, suffering. I could make Earth a paradise. I could make the entire universe a paradise. All I needed was the last stone. Stop it, I muttered, closing my eyes. Azimuth said you'd do this. Show me tempting visions. But were they just temptations? Or were they possibilities? Real futures I could create? My plumber badge buzzed on the nightstand. I grabbed it, grateful for the distraction. Ben here. Ben, it's Grandpa Max. We're detecting a massive energy surge in central London. Patterns match the infinity stones. I sat up straight. The last one. The Mind Stone. Unknown, but it's a strong possibility. We're dispatching plumber teams now, but they'll take time to reach the location. I can be there instantly, I said, already standing, the fatigue from earlier forgotten. Grandpa Max hesitated. Ben, remember what we discussed about minimal use, this is an emergency, I cut him off. If it is the Mind Stone, we can't let Thanos get it. I'm going. I didn't wait for his response. Closing the connection, I raised the gauntlet, calling on the Space Stone's power. A portal opened before me, showing a rainy London street on the other side. I stepped through, emerging into a downpour. I immediately sensed it, a resonance with the stones in my gauntlet, stronger than anything I'd felt before. This wasn't just any infinity stone. This was the final piece. The street was strangely empty for central London, even in the rain. Cars sat abandoned, headlights still on, windshield wipers moving. Like everyone had simply vanished. I followed the pull of the stones, turning down side streets, moving deeper into the city. The resonance led me to a small courtyard where something impossible was happening. In the center of the courtyard floated a glowing yellow stone, the Mind Stone. But it wasn't simply there. Reality around it was fractured, like looking through a broken mirror. Through the fractures, I could see glimpses of other worlds, other realities. And in every one, someone or something was reaching for the stone. The final convergence, a familiar voice said behind me. I spun to find Professor Paradox standing there, somehow completely dry despite the rain, his pocket watch in hand. What's happening? I asked, gesturing to the fracturing reality around the Mind Stone. The sixth stone has arrived, but its presence has destabilized the walls between dimensions, Paradox explained, his tone grave. Multiple realities are trying to claim it simultaneously, including, I suspect, the reality where Thanos awaits. As if summoned by the name, one of the largest fractures widened, and through it I could see a massive figure, purple-skinned, with a ridged chin and eyes that burned with purpose. He wore golden armor, and on his hand was a gauntlet that mirrored my own, though his was empty of stones. Thanos. It had to be. He reached toward the Mind Stone from his dimension, his gauntlet glowing with strange energy. The fracture widened further. He's breaking through. I shouted, raising my own gauntlet defensively. Paradox nodded grimly. The stones seek to be reunited. Your five call to the sixth, just as his empty gauntlet calls to all six. A cosmic tug-of-war with reality itself as the battlefield. I stepped toward the Mind Stone, my gauntlet blazing with the combined light of 5 infinity stones. Then I need to get it first. Ben, wait, Paradox started, but I was already moving. I reached for the Mind Stone, calling on all 5 stones I possessed to strengthen my claim. The Space Stone extended my reach across the fractured reality. The Time Stone slowed the fracturing process. The Reality Stone reinforced our dimension against the others. The Power Stone amplified my will, my desire to claim the final piece. Thanos' eyes locked with mine across the dimensional divide. I could feel his fury, his determination. His hand reached further, the fracture widening enough that I could see his entire massive form now, could feel the cold air of his dimension seeping into ours. The stones are mine, child, his voice rumbled, somehow crossing the dimensional barrier. I have sought them across eons. You are but a temporary guardian. Guess again, I snarled, pushing harder with my gauntlet. The Mind Stone flared brilliantly, torn between us. The other fractures began to close as our 2 claims overpowered the others, the contest narrowing to just Thanos and me. Ben. Paradox called urgently. The dimensional stress is too great. If both gauntlets continue pulling, you'll tear a permanent breach between worlds. I barely heard him, all my focus on the Mind Stone and the titanic presence trying to claim it from the other side. I could feel Thanos's will pressing against mine, ancient, patient, utterly committed to his purpose. You don't even know what power you hold, Thanos said, his voice almost reasonable despite the strain of our contest. I have studied the stones for centuries. Prepared myself for their burden. You are a child who found a loaded weapon. Maybe, I admitted, sweat pouring down my face despite the cool rain. But they chose me. I poured everything I had into one final effort, the 5 stones blazing so brightly they turned the rainy night to day. The Mind Stone jerked toward me, then again, then broke free from the center of the fracture and flew into my waiting gauntlet. It settled into the final empty slot with a soft click, and the universe changed. Power. Knowledge. Reality itself became fluid, malleable. I could see everything, understand everything. The dimensional fractures sealed themselves at my unconscious thought. Thanos' roar of rage cut off as his connection to our world was severed. I rose into the air, the completed infinity gauntlet blazing with the light of 6 stones. Rain stopped falling around me, suspended in mid-air. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Benjamin, Paradox said quietly, still standing in the courtyard below me. Can you hear me? I looked down at him, seeing not just his physical form but his entire timeline stretching backward and forward through eternity. I could see every dimension he had ever visited, every version of himself that existed across the multiverse. I hear you, Professor, I said, my voice resonating across multiple levels of reality. I hear everything now. The gauntlet is complete, he said, his expression guarded. What will you do with such power? The question seemed almost quaint now. What wouldn't I do? I could feel the universe laid out before me like an open book, waiting to be rewritten. Fix everything, I said simply. And what does everything entail? Paradox pressed. Your definition seems to have been expanding recently. I waved a hand dismissively, and the rain began falling again, but only around Paradox, leaving me perfectly dry. A small demonstration of the control I now possessed. You're worried I'll abuse the power, I said, reading his concerns directly from his mind, the Mind Stone making his thoughts as clear to me as spoken words. That I'll become like Thanos or Vilgax. The concern is valid, Paradox replied calmly, ignoring the rain now soaking his coat. Absolute power, corrupts absolutely, I finished for him. An old saying from beings who never experienced true power. This isn't corruption, Professor. It's clarity. I rose higher, the gauntlet illuminating the London skyline. With a thought, I repaired a crumbling building nearby. With another, I purified the polluted Thames River. Small demonstrations, just the beginning. Ben, Paradox called up to me, his voice taking on an urgency I'd rarely heard from him. The stones are affecting your perspective. What seems like clarity to you now may be the opposite. But his words seemed distant, unimportant compared to the visions flowing through my mind. I could see all the problems of Earth: war, hunger, disease, cruelty, suffering in 1,000 forms. And I could fix them all with a thought. Why hadn't I seen it before? Why had I wasted so much time fighting individual criminals, aliens, monsters, when I could simply remake the world into something better? I need to go, I said to Paradox, already opening a portal with the space stone. There's so much to do. Benjamin, wait, but I was already gone, stepping through the portal into the upper atmosphere of Earth. From here, I could see the curve of the planet, the thin blue line of atmosphere protecting the teeming life below. So fragile. So in need of protection and guidance. I spread my arms, the completed gauntlet blazing with the light of the 6 infinity stones. With the Mind Stone now in place, I could feel the consciousness of every being on the planet, their hopes, fears, dreams, suffering. Let me help you, I whispered to the world below. The stones responded eagerly, their power flowing through me and out across the planet. I started small, targeting immediate suffering. Diseases vanished, wounds healed, pain eased. Then larger problems: wars stopped as weapons turned to dust, environmental damage reversed as pollution disappeared and ecosystems regenerated. But why stop there? I could see deeper issues, the flaws in human nature that led to conflict and suffering in the first place. Greed, hatred, prejudice, fear. With the Mind Stone, I could simply adjust them. Make humanity better. Kinder. Wiser. So I did. The changes rippled across the planet like waves on a pond. Conflicts ceased. Cooperation replaced competition. People looked at their neighbors and saw kin, not strangers. The world I had always fought for, peaceful, united, compassionate, blossomed beneath me. It was beautiful. It was perfect. It was just the beginning. I floated above the transformed Earth, the 6 infinity stones pulsing in harmony on my gauntlet, and smiled. After years of fighting to save the world one battle at a time, I had finally found a better way. I can fix everything now, I whispered to myself, the stones glowing in agreement. And I will. Chapter 3, Absolute Power. 1 month since I remade the world, and it was perfect. Actually, legitimately perfect. No war. No disease. No hunger. No crime. I'd fixed it all with a wave of my gauntlet hand. 6 infinity stones gleaming on my wrist, 6 different colors of cosmic power working together to maintain the paradise I'd created. I floated cross-legged above Mount Everest, watching the sunrise paint the perfect world below. From up here, you could see how I'd cleaned up the atmosphere, crystal clear now, no pollution, no smog. The weather systems ran like clockwork, delivering rain exactly where it was needed, preventing natural disasters before they could form. People were happy. All of them. I'd made sure of it. A blue portal opened in the air beside me, and Gwen stepped through, her red hair whipping in the high-altitude wind. I didn't even turn to look at her. I'd sensed her coming before she arrived, one of the perks of the Mind Stone. Nice view, she said, floating beside me on a platform of mana. Though a little cold for visiting. I waved my hand lazily, and the air around us warmed to a comfortable temperature. Better? Show off. She almost smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You're getting harder to find, Ben. Am I hiding? In plain sight, maybe. She sat down on her mana platform, mirroring my cross-legged position. You don't come home anymore. Mom and Dad haven't seen you in weeks. Your parents are worried sick. I frowned slightly. They shouldn't worry. Everyone's safe now. Happy. Are they? Gwen's voice sharpened. Or have you just made it impossible for them to feel anything else? That got my attention. I turned to face her fully, studying her with more than just my eyes. The Mind Stone let me brush against her thoughts, not reading them exactly, but sensing their emotional tenor. Concern. Fear. Determination. You think I've done something wrong, I said, not a question but a statement. I think you've done something dangerous. She met my gaze unflinchingly. Ben, people aren't meant to live in a perfect world. It's not real. I laughed, gesturing to the panorama around us. Looks pretty real to me. You know what I mean. Struggle, challenge, even pain, they're part of what makes us human. You've taken that away. I've taken away suffering, I corrected. Why is that bad? Gwen sighed, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Because you didn't ask anyone if that's what they wanted. You just decided for everyone. And they're better for it. I stood up, no longer in the mood for meditation. The 6 stones gleamed on the gauntlet as I stretched. Come on, I'll show you. Without waiting for a response, I opened a portal with the space stone. Gwen hesitated, then followed me through. We emerged in the middle of New York City, but not the New York I'd grown up seeing on TV. This New York gleamed with clean streets and advanced technology. People moved about their business with peaceful expressions. No honking horns, no shouting, no stress or hurry. See? I gestured around. Happy. Healthy. Safe. Gwen watched a group of children playing in a park that definitely hadn't existed in the old New York. They seem peaceful. Exactly. Too peaceful. She turned to me, green eyes intense. Ben, when was the last time you saw anyone argue? Or cry? Or even laugh too loudly? I frowned, thinking back. Come to think of it, the emotional range I observed had been muted. But wasn't that good? No extremes meant no suffering. They don't need those negative emotions anymore, I said with certainty. I've eliminated the causes of pain. You've eliminated their freedom, Gwen countered. The freedom to feel whatever they actually feel, not what you think they should feel. Before I could respond, a small commotion caught my attention, something that shouldn't have been possible in my perfect world. A young man was arguing with a shopkeeper, his voice rising in frustration. As soon as I noticed, the Mind Stone pulsed on my gauntlet, and both men suddenly calmed, their faces smoothing into pleasant expressions as they reached an agreement. Did you see that? Gwen demanded. You didn't even consciously do anything. The stones are acting on their own, enforcing your idea of perfect, without you even directing them. I stared at my gauntlet. She was right. The stones had responded automatically, like an immune system attacking an infection. The realization was unsettling. Maybe they just know what I want, I said, but with less conviction. Or maybe they're changing what you want. Gwen stepped closer. Ben, when was the last time you turned into one of your aliens? When was the last time you used the Omnitrix at all? I opened my mouth to answer, then stopped. I couldn't remember. The Omnitrix was still there, embedded in the gauntlet, but I hadn't needed it. The stones gave me more power than any alien transformation. I don't need to, I finally said. The Omnitrix is part of who you are, Ben. It has been since you were 10 years old. Gwen's voice softened. Just like being stubborn and impulsive and occasionally an idiot, but also brave and selfless and determined to do the right thing. That's Ben Tennyson. I'm not sure who you are now. Her words stung more than I wanted to admit. I turned away, opening another portal. I'm still me, I said. Just, more. We stepped through into Plumber headquarters, or what had been Plumber headquarters before I'd remade it into a gleaming command center of dimensional monitoring. The place was bustling with activity, aliens and humans working together at advanced stations. Grandpa Max stood at the central console, conferring with an alien lieutenant. He looked up as we appeared, his expression shifting from surprise to a carefully neutral mask. Ben, he greeted me. We weren't expecting you. Just showing Gwen some of the improvements I've made, I said, gesturing around the command center. The new dimensional monitoring system should give us weeks of warning if Thanos tries to breach our reality again. Grandpa Max nodded, but I could sense his unease. The Mind Stone made everyone's emotions transparent to me now, whether I wanted to read them or not. It's impressive, he admitted. Though we're still learning how to use most of it. I waved a hand dismissively. You'll figure it out. Or I can just give you the knowledge directly. I tapped my temple. Mind Stone. The discomfort in the room ratcheted up several notches. I could feel it from everyone present, fear mixed with awe, uncertainty about how to interact with me. Only Gwen's emotions remained complex, layered with determination and a stubborn hope I couldn't quite fathom. Ben, Grandpa Max said carefully, Azimuth has been trying to contact you. He's made progress on separating the Gauntlet from the Omnitrix. I stiffened. I told him to stop that research. We don't need to separate them. He's concerned, I know what he's concerned about, I cut him off. He's worried I'm too powerful now. That I'm beyond his control. I laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the command center. He's right about that much, at least. Screens around the room flickered momentarily, responding to my emotional spike. A few plumbers backed away subtly. That's not it, Ben, Gwen said softly. He's worried about you. We all are. The stones are changing you. They're improving me, I corrected. Just like I improved Earth. Is that why you haven't left the planet since you remade it? Grandpa Max asked. If everything's so perfect, why are you still here, watching over it like it might break if you look away? The question caught me off guard. It was true, I hadn't left Earth's atmosphere since transforming the planet. I'd told myself it was because I needed to monitor the changes, ensure they took root properly. But had it been something else? Fear that my perfect world wasn't as stable as I pretended? I've been busy, I said, avoiding the real question. Too busy to see your parents? Grandpa Max pressed. Too busy to help Kevin when he asked last week. Too busy to even answer calls from your friends. I'm responsible for the entire world now, I snapped, the stones flaring on my gauntlet. For all of reality. Forgive me if I don't have time for social calls. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. This wasn't me. Ben Tennyson didn't talk to his grandfather that way. Didn't dismiss his friends like they were beneath his notice. Gwen and Grandpa Max exchanged a look that spoke volumes. What? I demanded. What was that look for? You just proved our point, Gwen said gently. Listen to yourself, Ben. Responsible for all of reality. That doesn't sound like you. That sounds like, Vilgax, Grandpa Max finished. Or a Gregor. Or any of the power-hungry aliens you've stopped over the years. The comparison hit me like a physical blow. I'm nothing like them. They wanted power for themselves. I'm using it to help everyone. Whether they want that help or not. Grandpa Max's blue eyes were steady, challenging. That's not heroism, Ben. That's control. Before I could respond, alarms blared throughout the command center. Screens flashed red, and plumbers rushed to stations. What is it? I demanded, momentarily distracted from our argument. A technician looked up from his console, eyes wide. Dimensional breach forming. Massive energy signature, bigger than anything we've recorded. Location. Grandpa Max barked, instantly in command mode despite our tense conversation. Multiple locations, the technician reported. It's like the barrier between dimensions is thinning everywhere at once. I felt it then, a pull on the gauntlet, on all 6 stones simultaneously. They blazed with light, responding to something beyond our reality. Thanos, I whispered. He's found a way through. The largest screen in the command center flickered, then showed images from around the world. Shimmering tears in reality were appearing in major cities, each pulsing with ominous energy. Civilians are already gathering, another plumber reported. They're curious, not evacuating. Of course they're not evacuating, I muttered. I removed their fear response to unusual phenomena. Another unintended consequence of my perfect world, people no longer knew to run from danger. Guilt surged through me, but I pushed it aside. No time for that now. I need to stop this, I said, already opening a portal with the space stone. Ben, wait. Gwen grabbed my arm. You can't face Thanos alone. I gently but firmly removed her hand. I'm not alone. I have the stones. All 6 of them. He has none. That's not what she meant, Grandpa Max said, but I was already stepping through the portal. I emerged high above Manhattan, where the largest dimensional breach was forming. It hung in the air like a massive wound in reality, edges jagged and pulsing with energy that didn't belong in our universe. Below, people stood in streets and parks, looking up with expressions of mild curiosity rather than appropriate terror. I raised the gauntlet, calling on the reality and space stones to begin sealing the breach. The energy responded, the tears starting to close, then suddenly snapped wider as a counterforce pushed back against my power. From within the breach, a massive figure appeared, purple-skinned, heavily muscled, wearing golden armor that gleamed with otherworldly light. His face was rigid with determination, eyes fixed immediately on my gauntlet. Thanos had arrived. Stone Thief, his voice boomed, somehow carrying clearly despite the distance between us. We meet at last. I floated higher, putting myself between him and the city below. Turn back, Thanos. This reality is under my protection. He laughed, the sound like boulders grinding together. Protection? Is that what you call this prison you've created? He gestured to the people below. Look at them. Empty shells walking through the motions of life. They're happy, I insisted. Safe. They're enslaved. Thanos floated forward, emerging fully from the breach. He was even larger than he had appeared through the dimensional tear in London, towering at least 8 feet tall, his presence radiating power even without the Infinity Stones. Their minds bound by your will, their potential stunted by your naive concept of perfection. You don't get to judge me, I snarled, the stones flaring on my gauntlet. I know what you plan to do with these stones. Corvus told me enough. Thanos smiled thinly. And what did my servant tell you? That I sought to destroy. To conquer. To reshape reality in your image, I shot back. Which is exactly what you're accusing me of doing. The difference, Thanos said, his voice dropping to a rumble, is that I understand the true nature of the Infinity Stones. Their purpose. Their price. He spread his massive hands. You are but a child playing with forces that have already begun to consume you. I'd had enough talk. The Power Stone surged at my command, and I unleashed a blast of pure energy at Thanos. He raised his arm, the one wearing an empty gauntlet that mirrored my own, and somehow deflected the blast, sending it careening into the dimensional breach where it dissipated harmlessly. Impressive, I admitted reluctantly. How did you do that without any stones? Thanos flexed his empty gauntlet. I have wielded the stones before, in my reality. Their echo remains in this gauntlet, enough to defend, if not attack. His eyes narrowed. But defense will not be enough. Not for what comes next. He raised his hand, and the breach behind him pulsed, widening further. Through it poured a stream of creatures, not alien soldiers as I had expected, but strange, shifting things that seemed made of the same energy as the breach itself. They weren't attacking the city, they were attacking reality itself, their touch causing objects to waver and distort. What are they? I gasped, watching as a skyscraper rippled like water where one of the creatures brushed against it. Reality's antibodies, Thanos replied grimly. The cosmos responding to the infection you've created with your manipulations. The stones were never meant to remake an entire reality permanently. Such changes create instabilities. I stared in horror as more of the creatures emerged, spreading across Manhattan like a plague. Everywhere they touched, my perfect world began to unravel, buildings shifting between their current pristine state and their previous, weathered condition. People flickered, momentarily showing expressions of confusion and fear before returning to their placid smiles. No! I shouted, calling on the reality stone to reinforce my changes. It responded sluggishly, as if tired or resistant. This isn't happening. It is the natural response, Thanos said, watching impassively. Reality fights to reassert itself against unnatural manipulation. The more you fight it, the worse the breakdown will become. I ignored him, pouring more power into maintaining my perfect world. The 6 stones blazed on my gauntlet, but for the first time, I felt them straining, as if I was asking too much of them. Below, chaos was spreading. As my influence weakened, people were waking from their artificial contentment, looking around in confusion and growing fear. The emotional dampening I'd imposed was failing, leading to panic as they tried to reconcile their memories of a normal world with the utopia I'd created. You see, Thanos said, his voice almost gentle despite its rumbling depth. Your paradise was always an illusion. Reality cannot be remade by force of will alone, even with the stones. It requires balance. Shut up. I snarled, abandoning my efforts to maintain the broader changes to focus on the immediate threat. I transformed in a flash of green light, the first time I'd used the Omnitrix in weeks, into Heat Blast, but a version enhanced by the 6 stones, my fiery body now streaked with the colors of infinity. I launched myself at Thanos, throwing balls of cosmic fire that distorted the very air they passed through. Thanos met my charge with surprising speed for his size, his empty gauntlet somehow absorbing the energy of my attacks as he countered with devastating physical blows. We clashed above the city, each impact sending shockwaves that shattered windows and set off car alarms below. The dimensional breach continued to widen, more of the reality-distorting creatures pouring through with every passing second. You cannot defeat me and save your world simultaneously, Thanos called as he blocked another of my attacks. The strain is already showing. He was right. I could feel myself weakening, divided between the fight and my desperate attempts to hold reality together. The stones were pulling in different directions, the harmony I'd maintained beginning to fracture. I needed to end this quickly. I switched forms, transforming into Way Big, my cosmic form now a towering giant crackling with the power of the 6 stones. I reached for Thanos with hands that could crush mountains. But Thanos was ready. As my massive hands closed around him, he struck my gauntlet directly with his own. The 2 gauntlets, one full, one empty, connected with a sound like universes colliding. The world went white. When my vision cleared, I was no longer in Manhattan. I wasn't on Earth at all. I stood in an infinite void, surrounded by swirling galaxies and stars, the cosmos laid bare around me. I was back in human form, the gauntlet still blazing on my hand. Thanos stood before me, somehow both massive and normal-sized at once, as if physical dimensions had lost meaning in this place. Where are we? I demanded, raising the gauntlet defensively. Between, Thanos replied simply. Between realities, between moments, between thoughts. The collision of our gauntlets has brought us to the nexus point of creation itself. As my eyes adjusted to the impossible space, I began to see more, threads of light connecting the galaxies, pulsing with energy and information. The fabric of reality itself, exposed to view. And it was damaged. Everywhere I looked, I could see tears, fraying strands, places where the delicate web had been stressed to breaking point. Your work, Thanos said, following my gaze. Every change you forced upon reality with the stones added stress to the cosmic framework. I stared in horror at the extent of the damage. It wasn't just Earth that had been affected, the entire universe was showing signs of strain, and beyond it, other universes, other realities, all connected in ways I'd never imagined. I didn't know, I whispered. Of course not. Thanos' voice held no mockery, only a weary understanding. The stones don't reveal their true nature until it is too late. They show you what you can do, not what you should do. Around us, the cosmic threads continued to vibrate and fray. In the distance, I could see larger tiers forming, reality itself coming apart at the seams. Can it be fixed? I asked, my voice small in the infinite space. Not by force. Thanos gestured to my gauntlet. More power will only cause more damage. The only way to heal reality is to release it, to let it find its own balance again. By undoing everything I did, I realized, my heart sinking. Taking away the perfect world I created. Thanos inclined his head. Perfection is a concept created by limited minds. The universe thrives on imperfection, on change, on struggle and adaptation. Your perfect world was stagnant, dying from the moment of its creation. I wanted to argue, to defend what I'd done, but the evidence was literally all around me. The cosmic web was unraveling, and I had caused it. Why are you telling me this? I asked instead. I thought you wanted the stones for yourself. I did. Thanos looked down at his empty gauntlet. In my reality, I obtained them all. Used them to reshape my universe according to my vision of balance. What happened? His massive shoulders slumped slightly. The same thing that is happening in your reality now. The universe fought back. Reality began to unravel. I was forced to undo my work, to scatter the stones across dimensions to prevent their power from being reunited. I stared at him in shock. You're not here to take my stones. I am here to stop the collapse of the multiverse, Thanos corrected. Which means I am here to show you what I learned too late, that the stones cannot be used to enforce permanent change. That no single being, no matter how powerful or well-intentioned, should wield them all. As we spoke, a new figure appeared in the void, Professor Paradox, walking calmly through space as if strolling through a park. He speaks the truth, Benjamin, Paradox said, joining us in the Nexus. The Infinity Stones are aspects of creation itself. Together, they offer power that reality was not designed to endure in concentrated form. Then why did they end up in my universe at all? I demanded. Why did they bind to the Omnitrix? A cosmic accident, Paradox replied. Or perhaps a test. The universe has its own ways that even I cannot fully comprehend. The damage to the cosmic web was accelerating now, larger tears opening in the fabric of reality. Through them, I caught glimpses of worlds, some I recognized, some utterly alien. We're running out of time, Thanos rumbled. You must make your choice, Stone Bearer. Continue your futile attempt to maintain your changes and watch reality collapse entirely, or undo what you have done and restore the natural order. If I give up the stones, what happens to Earth? To all the people I helped? I asked, torn between my creation and the greater cosmic reality I now witnessed. They return to their natural state, Paradox said gently. With all the imperfection and struggle that entails. But also with their free will intact, their potential unlimited by your vision of what they should be. I looked down at the gauntlet, at the 6 Infinity Stones blazing with power. For weeks, I'd convinced myself I was using them responsibly, helping people, making the world better. But I'd been wrong. I'd been doing exactly what Vilgax or a Gregor would have done, imposing my will on others because I had the power to do so. That wasn't heroism. That was tyranny, no matter how benevolent my intentions. How do I fix this? I asked quietly. Paradox and Thanos exchanged glances. The stones must be separated, Thanos said. Their combined power withdrawn from reality gradually, not all at once. And the Omnitrix must be freed from its bond with the Gauntlet, Paradox added. Azimuth has found a way, but it requires your willing participation. I nodded slowly, my decision made. Then let's do it. Take us back. Thanos raised his empty gauntlet, and Paradox his pocket watch. The cosmic void swirled around us, collapsing inward until, we stood in Plumber headquarters, in a large chamber I recognized as the containment area for dangerous alien technology. Gwen, Kevin, and Grandpa Max were there, along with Azimuth, who stood on a console designed to his small size. And surrounding us all were the reality-distorting creatures, held at bay only by Gwen's mana barriers and Kevin's improvised weapons. "Ben!" Gwen cried when she saw me. "Where did you? Never mind. We need help. These things are everywhere, all over Earth." "I know," I said, stepping forward. "And I'm going to fix it. The real way this time." I looked to Azimuth, who was studying me with those ancient, knowing eyes. "You found a way to separate the Omnitrix from the Gauntlet?" He nodded. "It requires redirecting the energy flow from the stones through a controlled quantum field while simultaneously activating the Omnitrix's reset protocol." He gestured to an apparatus set up nearby. "But it will be painful, Benjamin. The stones have integrated deeply with your biological systems." "And risky," Thanos added. His presence had caused Kevin to take a defensive stance, but Paradox had apparently explained the situation. "The stones will resist separation. They have tasted your power, your potential." I looked around at the faces watching me, Gwen's hope, Kevin's wariness, Grandpa Max's quiet faith, Azimuth's clinical concern, Paradox's timeless patience, and Thanos's grim understanding. "Will it reverse what I've done to the world?" I asked. "The natural order will reassert itself gradually," Paradox explained. "Like a rubber band returning to its original shape after being stretched. There may be adjustment difficulties as people reconcile their memories. But they'll be free again," I said. "Free to make their own choices, even if those choices are sometimes wrong." Azimuth nodded approvingly. "You begin to understand the true burden of power, Ben Tennyson. Not how to use it, but when not to use it at all." Outside the containment area, alarms continued to blare as reports came in from around the world of reality fracture spreading. We didn't have much time. "Let's do this," I said, stepping up to the apparatus Azimuth had prepared. As I placed my gauntlet hand into the device, the 6 infinity stones flared with alarming brightness, as if sensing what was about to happen. "They will fight," Thanos warned. "The stones do not relinquish their bearer willingly." "Yeah, well, they haven't met Ben Tennyson's stubbornness," Kevin remarked, though the joke didn't quite mask his concern. Azimuth began activating the device, his tiny hands moving with incredible precision across the controls. "The process will extract the stones one by one, then separate the gauntlet from the Omnitrix. You must remain conscious throughout, Benjamin. Your will is essential to the separation." I nodded, bracing myself. "I'm ready." "Remember why you're doing this," Gwen said softly, standing nearby. "Remember who you really are." The device hummed to life, energy fields forming around my gauntlet hand. Immediately, pain shot up my arm, not physical pain, but something deeper, like parts of my consciousness were being torn away. The Mind Stone glowed brighter than the others, fighting the extraction most aggressively. I could hear it in my thoughts, promising greater understanding, perfect knowledge, the ability to unite all consciousness into harmony. "No," I gritted through clenched teeth. "Not your way. Not anymore." The stone pulsed once more, then dimmed, allowing the extraction field to pull it from its setting on the gauntlet. It hovered in the containment field, still glowing but no longer connected to me. Immediately, my perception changed. The constant awareness of others' thoughts faded, leaving me alone in my own mind for the first time in weeks. The sensation was both a relief and a loss. "One down," Azimuth announced. "The time stone next." The process repeated with each stone, the extraction, the pain, the temptation as each stone fought in its own way to remain bonded to me. The time stone showed me futures where I mastered its power without corruption. The reality stone offered worlds without suffering. The space stone promised the freedom of unlimited travel through dimensions. The power stone simply screamed its raw, primal desire to remain with a worthy wielder. Each separation left me feeling more like myself again, my thoughts clearer, my sense of identity stronger. But also weaker physically, more limited, more human. Finally, only the soul stone remained, glowing with an otherworldly orange light. This one will be the most difficult, Thanos warned. The soul stone bonds most deeply with its bearer. He was right. As Asmitha's device began to extract it, the pain was nearly unbearable, not just in my body but in what felt like my very essence. The soul stone had reached into the core of who I was, intertwined itself with my identity. "Fight it, Ben," Gwen called, seeing my struggle. I focused on her voice, on the faces of those around me, the people who knew Ben Tennyson, not the godlike being I'd started to become. This was who I really was. Not a cosmic power, not a perfect being, just Ben, flawed, stubborn, sometimes reckless, but always trying to do the right thing. With a final, wrenching sensation, the soul stone released its hold, floating free in the containment field alongside its 5 siblings. I gasped, sweat pouring down my face, feeling hollowed out but somehow more whole than I had in weeks. "Now the gauntlet itself," Asmith said, adjusting the controls. "This separation must be perfect, or the Omnitrix could be damaged beyond repair." The extraction field changed frequency, focusing on the connection point where the golden gauntlet had fused with the Omnitrix. This pain was purely physical, a burning sensation as the two technologies were carefully pulled apart. With a final surge of energy and a sound like a thunderclap, the separation was complete. The gauntlet fell away, leaving the familiar green and black Omnitrix on my wrist. I staggered backward, suddenly lightheaded, and would have fallen if Kevin hadn't caught me. "Easy, Tennyson," he said, supporting my weight. "You look like crap." "Thanks," I managed weakly. "Feel like it too." Across the room, the 6 infinity stones floated in their containment field, still glowing but somehow diminished without a bearer to channel their power. The empty gauntlet lay on the floor, once again just a piece of metal. Thanos approached the containment field, studying the stones with an unreadable expression. "They must be scattered," he said. "Separated across dimensions where they cannot be reunited." "Agreed," Paradox said. "I can assist with that task." "Wait," I said, pushing away from Kevin to stand on my own shaky legs. "Let me do it." Everyone turned to look at me in surprise. "Ben, you just went through an extremely traumatic separation," Grandpa Max objected. "You need medical attention, rest." "I know," I said. "But I need to do this. I'm the one who used them. I'm the one who nearly destroyed reality with them. I should be the one to make sure they can't be misused again." Asmith studied me thoughtfully. "The Omnitrix has reset to its default state. Your alien transformations will no longer be enhanced by the stone's energy. Good old regular aliens will do fine," I assured him. "One more job, then I promise I'll rest." After a moment of silent communication among the adults, Paradox nodded. "Very well, Benjamin. But I will accompany you, to ensure the process goes smoothly." Thanos stepped forward. "I as well. My experience with the stones may prove useful in selecting appropriate hiding places." I looked at the massive alien warlord who had come to stop me rather than claim the stones for himself. "Why help? You could just go back to your dimension now." Thanos's expression remained impassive. "Because I have walked the path you nearly completed, Stone Bearer. I know its cost better than any being alive." That was something I could understand. I nodded my acceptance of his help. Asmith adjusted the containment field, creating a special container for each stone that would allow safe transport without direct contact. "These will hold them temporarily, but you must work quickly. The longer the stones remain in proximity to each other, the greater the risk." I took the 6 containers, each holding a different infinity stone, and secured them in a specially designed case. The weight of it was nothing compared to the responsibility it represented. "Be careful, Ben," Gwen said, hugging me fiercely. "And hurry back. We've got a lot of explaining to do to everyone once they snap out of your perfect world." I grimaced at the thought of the aftermath. Yeah, not looking forward to that conversation with, well, everyone. "Just come back yourself," Kevin said, punching my shoulder lightly. "The real you." "I will," I promised. "I think I finally remember who that is." Paradox opened his pocket watch, creating a swirling portal of temporal energy. "Shall we, gentlemen? We have quite the multiversal road trip ahead of us." With a final look at my family and friends, I stepped through the portal with Paradox and Thanos, carrying the case that held enough power to remake or destroy all of reality. The first stone, the Mind Stone, we took to a dimension of pure thought, where beings of mental energy floated in an endless sea of consciousness. They had no physical form to be tempted by power, no concept of conquest or control. The stone would be just another thought in their ocean of ideas, impossible to misuse. "A fitting place," Thanos observed as I released the container, watching it dissolve into the mental energy around us. "The stone will be everywhere and nowhere." "One down, 5 to go," I said, already feeling lighter. The Time Stone we delivered to the custody of a race of crystalline beings who existed outside normal temporal flow. They experienced all moments simultaneously, making the stone's power redundant to them. They promised to embed it within the heart of their crystal city, where it would be forgotten by all but their most ancient historians. The Reality Stone presented a unique challenge. Its power to reshape matter made almost any hiding place vulnerable to discovery. Eventually, we decided on a pocket dimension that existed between realities, a place of constant flux where the stone's occasional emissions would be indistinguishable from the environment itself. "The power of creation hidden in uncreated space," Paradox mused as we sealed the dimensional pocket behind us. Poetic, in its way. For the Space Stone, we traveled to the very edge of the known multiverse, where reality thinned to almost nothing. There, we found a solitary guardian, a being ancient beyond reckoning who had withdrawn from all civilizations to watch the slow dance of creation. "I will keep it," the guardian promised, its voice like the whisper of distant stars. "As I have kept many secrets through the ages." The Power Stone required the most secure containment. Its raw energy could destroy worlds if unleashed by an unprepared wielder. We eventually found a dead universe, one where life had never evolved, where planets orbited cold stars in perfect, empty silence. We placed the stone at the heart of a massive black hole, its energy contained by the one force in nature that could truly constrain it. "Even I would struggle to retrieve it from there," Thanos acknowledged as we watched the stone disappear into the event horizon. Finally, only the Soul Stone remained, glowing with its warm orange light in its temporary container. This stone had been the hardest to part with, the one that had bonded most deeply with me. Somehow, it felt like it knew me, understood me in ways the others hadn't. "Where do we hide something that can read souls?" I asked my companions as we stood in the nexus between dimensions. Paradox and Thanos exchanged glances. "There is one place," Thanos said slowly. "A realm that exists parallel to all others, where the essence of life itself is distilled and preserved. The soul would be merely one among countless others there, impossible to distinguish or extract." "The Forge of Souls," Paradox nodded. "Yes, that would be appropriate. But reaching it requires sacrifice." I looked between them. "What kind of sacrifice?" "The realm demands payment," Thanos explained. "A memory of great personal significance. Not taken, but freely given. The more precious the memory, the more securely the stone will be hidden." I considered this, thinking of all I had experienced in my 17 years of life. What memory would be worthy of such a sacrifice? What could I bear to give up? The answer came with surprising clarity. "I know what I'll give." Paradox opened a final portal, this one unlike any we had used before. Instead of the swirling energy of time or the jagged tear of dimensional travel, this doorway shimmered like water, reflecting distorted images of all who looked upon it. We stepped through into a landscape of impossible beauty, rolling hills of what looked like glass, beneath a sky filled with countless floating lights, each one pulsing with a different rhythm. The souls of all who have lived, who are living, who will live, Thanos said quietly, his usually harsh voice softened by something like reverence. Each light a life, preserved in memory if not in fact. At the center of this realm stood a pool of liquid light, its surface perfectly still despite the gentle breeze that moved through the glass grass around us. The offering must be made there, Paradox explained, indicating the pool. The stone placed within afterward. I approached the pool slowly, the container with the soul stone clutched in my hand. As I stood at the edge, the liquid light rippled slightly, as if in greeting or anticipation. I offer a memory, I said, the words coming instinctively. The memory of absolute power. The knowledge of what it feels like to hold infinity in my hand and reshape reality to my will. The pool rippled more strongly, accepting the offering. I felt the memory begin to fade, not erased completely, but transformed into something abstract, theoretical rather than experiential. I would remember that I had held the stones, used them, nearly destroyed reality with them. But the visceral feeling of that power, the seductive whisper of limitless possibility, that was what I gave up. As the memory faded, I opened the container and released the soul stone into the pool. It sank beneath the surface, the orange glow gradually diminishing until it vanished completely, one more light among the countless souls preserved in this timeless realm. It is done, Thanos said. The 6 infinity stones, scattered across dimensions, beyond the reach of any who might seek to unite them again. I felt an immense weight lift from my shoulders, not just the physical burden of carrying the stones, but the metaphysical weight of responsibility that had nearly crushed me. Let's go home, I said simply. The earth was healing when we returned, both from my improvements and from the damage caused by the reality fractures. As Paradox had predicted, the natural order had begun reasserting itself once the stones were removed from our dimension. Buildings had returned to their original states. Technology had reverted to normal. Most importantly, people were themselves again, confused, disoriented, with hazy memories of the perfect world I'd created, but free once more to feel the full range of human emotions. Plumber headquarters was chaos when Paradox returned me there, reports flooding in from around the world, teams dispatched to handle the most severe cases of reality distortion, medical personnel treating those suffering from what they were calling reality shock. Gwen spotted me first, rushing across the command center to wrap me in a tight hug. You're back. And you're you. I hugged her back, realizing how much I'd missed this simple human connection. Yeah, all stones safely hidden away. Hopefully for good this time. Kevin approached more casually, but his relief was obvious. Took you long enough. You've been gone 3 days. 3 days? I blinked in surprise. It felt like hours. Time flows differently between dimensions, Paradox explained with a shrug. A hazard of multiversal travel. Grandpa Max joined us, looking tired but relieved. The worst of the reality fractures have closed on their own. We're monitoring the remaining ones, but they seem to be healing naturally now that the stones are gone. And Thanos? Gwen asked, looking around as if expecting the massive alien to appear. Return to his dimension, I explained. He has his own reality to watch over. Never thought I'd be grateful to a guy who started out trying to invade Earth, Kevin remarked. He wasn't trying to invade, I corrected. He was trying to stop me from doing exactly what he'd done in his reality. He'd learned the hard way what I almost found out too late. Azimuth teleported onto the console nearby, studying me with those ancient eyes. And what lesson was that, Ben Tennyson? I looked down at the Omnitrix on my wrist, just the Omnitrix now, no gauntlet, no stones, no cosmic power beyond the aliens it contained. It felt right, like coming home. That having the power to change everything doesn't mean you should, I said slowly. That perfection isn't something you can force on the world. And that sometimes the most responsible thing you can do with power is to give it up. Azimuth nodded, the closest thing to approval I'd ever seen from him. The Omnitrix was never designed to perfect the universe, merely to foster understanding between different beings. Perhaps now you truly grasp why. Yeah, I think I do. I smiled ruefully. Though I could have learned it with a bit less cosmic drama. When have you ever done anything the easy way? Gwen teased, nudging my shoulder. Grandpa Max's expression grew more serious. We still have a lot of cleanup to do. People are confused, scared. They remember parts of your perfect world, but not why it changed or what happened. The official story is a mass hallucination caused by alien technology. Close enough to the truth, I sighed. I'll help however I can. You should start with your parents, he advised gently. They've been worried sick. The thought of facing Mom and Dad after everything that had happened was daunting. What could I possibly say? Sorry I went power mad with cosmic artifacts and brainwashed the entire planet. I'll go with you, Gwen offered, sensing my discomfort. Thanks, but this is something I need to do myself. I took a deep breath. I've been avoiding responsibility for my actions. Time to face the music. Kevin clapped me on the shoulder. That's the Ben we know. Doing the right thing even when it sucks. I managed a small smile. Yeah, well, being a hero isn't always about the cool aliens and saving the world from monsters. Sometimes it's about owning up to your mistakes. A lesson many never learn, even in thousands of years of life, Paradox commented, checking his pocket watch. And now, I believe I should be going. Dimensional boundaries to repair, timelines to straighten, the usual business. Thanks for your help, Professor, I said sincerely. I couldn't have fixed this without you. Oh, I think you would have found a way, Benjamin, he replied with his enigmatic smile. You always do. With a swirl of energy, he vanished. I looked around at the command center, at the plumbers working tirelessly to restore order, at my cousin and best friend standing supportively beside me, at my grandfather who had never lost faith in me even when I'd gone astray. So, I said, stretching my arms over my head, feeling normal, wonderfully, perfectly normal, for the first time in weeks. What's the plan? Where do we start? Grandpa Max smiled. We start where we always do. One problem at a time, one day at a time. No cosmic shortcuts. I joked. No cosmic shortcuts, he confirmed. Just good old-fashioned hard work and heroism. I looked down at the Omnitrix, at the familiar symbol that had been part of my identity since I was 10 years old. It had always been enough. I had always been enough, without godlike power or the ability to reshape reality. I can live with that, I said, and meant it. Months later, I stood on the roof of my house, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that no reality stone could improve upon. The world had largely returned to normal, or as normal as a world that regularly experienced alien invasions and superhero battles could be. Most people had written off their memories of my perfect world as dreams or hallucinations, just as the plumbers had suggested. Those who remembered more clearly, Gwen, Kevin, my family, had forgiven me, understanding that the stones had influenced my thinking, amplified my desire to help into something more controlling. The Omnitrix was functioning perfectly, my alien transformations back to their usual selves without the enhancement of the Infinity Stones. If anything, I appreciated them more now, each form with its unique strengths and limitations, each transformation a reminder that power was best when it came with constraints. Thought I'd find you up here, a voice called from behind me. I turned to see Grandpa Max climbing onto the roof, moving with the agility of a man half his age. Just watching the sunset, I said as he settled beside me. Best show in the universe, he agreed. And completely natural. I smiled at the gentle reminder. I wasn't planning to improve it. I know. He bumped his shoulder against mine companionably. You've come a long way these past few months. Had to grow up sometime, I guess, I replied, my eyes still on the horizon. You were always growing up, Ben. Sometimes in fits and starts, sometimes taking a step backward before moving forward again. That's how it works for most of us. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching as the sun dipped lower, the sky shifting from gold to deep orange and crimson. Azimuth sent a message, Grandpa Max said finally. He's finished analyzing the data from your time with the Gauntlet. Wants you to come to Galvan Prime for a debriefing. I raised an eyebrow. A debriefing? Or a lecture about responsible use of power? Probably both, he chuckled. But he also mentioned something about an upgrade to the Omnitrix. That got my attention. An upgrade? After everything that happened, he wants to give me more power. Not more power, Grandpa Max clarified. Different control options. He was impressed with how you handled yourself at the end, giving up the stones, making the hard choice. Said something about you, finally showing the maturity the Omnitrix was designed for. High praise from Azimuth, I remarked, genuinely surprised. He's always believed in you, Ben. Even when he pretends not to. Grandpa Max stood, joints creaking slightly. So, what do you say? Up for a trip to Galvan Prime next week? I looked down at the Omnitrix on my wrist. Once, I might have jumped at any chance for an upgrade, more power, more options. Now, I felt a new kind of responsibility toward the device and what it represented. Yeah, I said finally. But tell him I don't want anything flashy or game-changing. Just something that helps me do what the Omnitrix was always meant for, building understanding, protecting people who need protection. Grandpa Max smiled, pride evident in his eyes. I'll let him know. As he made his way back to the edge of the roof, I called after him, Hey, Grandpa. He paused, looking back. Thanks for not giving up on me. When I had the stones, when I was, not myself. You could have stopped me by force, but you kept trying to reach me instead. That's what family does, Ben, he said simply. We believe in each other, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. After he'd gone, I turned back to the sunset, now fading into twilight. Stars were beginning to appear, countless points of light in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, across dimensions I could no longer access, the 6 Infinity Stones remained hidden, their power waiting for the next bearer who might bring them together. But it wouldn't be me. I'd had my taste of absolute power, and while the specific feeling had been sacrificed to hide the Soul Stone, I remembered enough, the temptation, the corruption, how easy it had been to justify controlling others, for their own good. The Omnitrix beeped softly on my wrist, the familiar sound comforting in its mundanity. Just one transformation at a time. Just one problem at a time. Just one day at a time. As a hero, as Ben Tennyson, that had always been enough. It would be enough again. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.